Chapter 158, It's a Bluff. Bailey Housewan snorted coldly. Just wait until sister comes back. I want to see how she'll act then. A ruthless light flickered past Su Wanjing's eyes. Even if this trash was lucky enough to come out alive this time, it won't be long until she dies. Bailey Hongzhuang's fight with the Hellwolves caused everyone to reevaluate her. She absolutely mustn't let Bailey Hongzhuang steal away Bailey Yuyan's limelight. As soon as the hunting feast was over, she will look for a hitman. No matter what, she needed this trash dead. Very quickly, cultivators began to leave the hunting grounds. Seeing their children come out safely, the various officials couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Regardless of their child's achievements, so long as they were safe and sound, they would be happy. But while almost all the cultivators were out of the hunting grounds, the crowd's two most anticipated cultivators, Xinyuan Huan and Bailey Yuyan, still didn't leave the hunting grounds for a long time. Doubt appeared in everybody's eyes. Why is His Highness, the Crown Prince, still not out yet? Could he still be fighting with the Storm Wolf? Maybe the Storm Wolf is just very hard to deal with. Then taking a lot of time would only be natural. Hearing the court chancellors talk on the stage, all the competition cultivators stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Xinyuan Huan and Bailey Yuyan were killing the Storm Wolf? Haha, the real Storm Wolf was already killed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Time slowly passed by. Finally, everybody saw a bright yellow figure come out of the hunting field. Huaner. Seeing the familiar robe, Jiang Jining couldn't help but get up and smile. He finally came out. But when Jiang Jining saw Xinyuan Huan's body, her face couldn't help but turn pale. Because his bright yellow robes were dyed red with blood. She could tell from Xinyuan Huan's face that his injury was serious. Jiang Jining immediately went over. At once reaching Xinyuan Huan. Xinyuan Huan was her only son. Now seeing Xinyuan Huan suffer such a serious injury, her heart was stabbed with pain. Huaner, what happened to you? Jiang Jining's face was filled with concern, about to pull Xinyuan Huan's hand. But when she pulled, Jiang Jining's face grew even paler. Your hand. Xinyuan Huan's face was bitter. He never thought he'd come out of the hunting competition with such an appearance. Xinyuan Yutian's face also changed. Although he knew that there would always be casualties at the hunting feast, and that this year was even more difficult than the previous ones, he had believed that Xinyuan Huan's strength was enough. But now Xinyuan Huan wasn't just hurt, but seriously injured. All the court chancellors were shocked. Xinyuan Huan was at the initial stage of mysterious Ian, but still got seriously injured. From this, you could clearly see just how strong the Storm Wolf truly was. The competing cultivators all couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. Xinyuan Huan's hand was already completely mutilated. Even as the Crown Prince, it still wasn't easy for him to fully heal his injury. He had already prepared for the imperial physicians to assist Xinyuan Huan and bind his wound before quickly treating the other cultivators' injuries as well. Seeing Xinyuan Huan so seriously hurt, Bailey Zhentao grew somewhat heavy. Even now, they still haven't seen Bailey Yuyan come out. A loud gong sounded. The hunting competition was over. The hunting field's entrance closed. It would only open on the day of the next hunting competition. Chapter 159. Watching the exit, Bailey Zhentao's face was gloomy as he stood up. Emperor, my daughter still hasn't come out. Hearing that, everybody looked at Bailey Zhentao curiously. Bailey Yuyan's strength was ranked amongst the best in the group of competing cultivators, so the fact that she still hasn't come out was truly a bit strange. A trace of astonishment flickered past Xianyuan Yuqian's eyes, his voice sinking. There's nobody left in the hunting field. When these words came out, everybody fell in shock. For a moment, Bailey Zhentao didn't react to Xianyuan Yuqian's words. After he was clear, his shock took over his dignified face. Impossible. Bailey Yuyan still hasn't come out of the hunting grounds, but they said that there wasn't anybody left in the field. Doesn't that mean that Bailey Yuyan's dead? When he first heard it, Bailey Zhentao thought it was absolutely preposterous. With Bailey Yuyan's strength, it was simply impossible for her to have died there. Li Changqian was also somewhat surprised, but his surprise was actually a pleasant one. Now that Bailey Yuyan died, the general's household would definitely be much weaker. Only Bailey Housewan was left, and right now he was just a cripple. Yuyan definitely couldn't have died. Su Wanjing immediately yelled, her face completely firm. Almost nobody believed it. They all knew Bailey Yuyan's strength. Unless something like Bailey Hongzhuang's situation happened and she got surrounded by hellwolves, it shouldn't have been possible for her to die. But at this moment, Xin Yuanhuan slowly opened his mouth. Bailey Yuyan really did die. Xin Yuanhuan's words were like tossing a stone into a calm lake. As soon as he spoke, everybody stared intensely at him. Since Xin Yuanhuan had personally confirmed it, then it probably was true. Bailey Yuyan had died. This news swept over everybody's hearts. Even the competing cultivators' faces were filled with shock. Did you see it with your own eyes? Bailey Haoxuan asked unresigned. Xin Yuanhuan slowly nodded yes. When Xin Yuanhuan's voice fell, Su Wanjing's face instantly turned deathly pale, falling limply to the ground. No. It's impossible. Su Wanjing trembled, her face full of disbelief. She was waiting for Bailey Yuyan to return with glory. How could she have died in the hunting field? Bailey Haoxuan looked at Xin Yuanhuan in a daze. He was very clear about Xin Yuanhuan's identity. There was no reason why he would lie because there simply wasn't a need to. But his sister's strength was so strong, how could she have died? Bailey Zhentao's face was gloomy. Although inside his heart was filled with shock, he didn't lose his manners. Excuse me, Your Highness, Crown Prince, may I ask how Yuyan died? Bailey Zhentao asked. Master, will Xin Yuanhuan say what really happened? Little White asked worried. Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent. Even if he tells the truth, dead men tell no tales. What evidence does he have? Since she dared to kill Bailey Yuyan in front of Xin Yuanhuan, she had already long thought of the consequences. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang so confident, Little White smiled. Oh, that's true. Plus, he won't tell the truth. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled softly. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Little Black and Little White were flabbergasted. They couldn't understand why Bailey Hongzhuang said that. But Xin Yuanhuan's answer soon made Little Black and Little White want to prostrate themselves in front of her in admiration. Bailey Yuyan was killed by the storm wolf. Xin Yuanhuan said slowly, to say the truth, my injury was also due to the storm wolf. Everybody looked at Xin Yuanhuan's mutilated hand and swallowed. The storm wolf was truly too fierce. Xin Yuanhuan, even with his strength, got so seriously injured. Bailey Yuyan was still somewhat weaker than Xin Yuanhuan, so being killed by the storm wolf really wasn't impossible. Thinking up to there, Bailey Zhentao's face seemed to have suddenly aged 10 years. His high-spirited aura of a general suddenly diminishing. The past 6 months were like a dream for him. He didn't dare to believe that the general's household power has been reduced to this pitiful state in such a short amount of time. Now even Bailey Yuyan died. The general's household strength is far weaker now. Currently the general's household only has Bailey Haoxuan. It's good that he didn't participate in the hunting competition. Otherwise the general's household would truly cease to exist. That's not only it. Chun Wangfei is a newly rising talent, but the general's household didn't know how to cherish the pearl. Everyone's gazes turned to stare at Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Haoxuan's bodies. No matter how they looked, Bailey Haoxuan just simply couldn't even be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang. After a brief amount of time to rest, Xin Yuan Yuqian spoke. Now we will begin to announce the top 3 competitors in the hunting competition. When Xin Yuan Yuqian's voice fell, the atmosphere suddenly changed. The moment suddenly became incredibly tensed. If they could get into the top 3 for the royal family's hunting competition, not only could they receive rich awards, but their names would also be known all over Fengbo country. Xin Yuan Yuqian's face slowly revealed a smile. For first place, who has the storm wolf's core? All the chancellor's eyes fell on Xin Yuanhuan's body. Although his injuries were very serious, no one but him had the strength to win against it. The situation became very strange. On the high platform, the chancellor stared at Xin Yuanhuan. On the ground, everybody else turned to Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing this scene, the chancellor's faces all changed somewhat. What did this mean? Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had the storm wolf's demonic core? Xin Yuan Yuqian and Zhao Yunqi had doubt on their faces. It seemed this time the hunting competition truly had many variables. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly stood up. Above her slim, fair palm appeared the storm wolf's demonic core. The demonic core was azure in the sun, emitting a captivating luster, energy fluctuations faintly permeating in the air. This was the power of a demonic core. All the storm wolf strength was stored in its core. It was incredibly valuable. Xianyuan Yutian and the rest could all recognize the storm wolf's core with a glance. Until they saw Bailey Hongzhuang take out the demonic core with their own eyes. Didn't believe it. First place was Bailey Hongzhuang's. Bailey Hongzhuang actually got first in the royal hunting competition. Truly too incredible. And even His Highness, the Crown Prince, got seriously injured, but Bailey Hongzhuang came out unscathed. Did that mean she was stronger than His Highness? Everyone's eyes changed. Before, they hadn't personally seen Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, and always had some suspicions about what happened. Now that everything was an ironclad fact, they were completely convinced. The sunlight spilled on a white figure, casting a faint gold shimmer on her body. Her delicate, beautiful face rippled with a clear, faint smile. Not proud, not impatient. Even though she was first place with all its glory, her face was still indifferent. Such a bearing was already something the mass majority of cultivators there were unable to have. The winner of the hunting competition was actually the somebody known in the imperial city as Trash. The general's household family truly had no eyes. Did you see how ugly General Bailey's face was? Now his intestines have probably turned blue from regret. That's true. If Bailey Hongzhuang was still one of the general's household's people, the general's household's future would truly be limitless. I really fail to understand how General Bailey's wise. He can't even handle simple family matters. Even though everybody spoke quietly, Bailey Zhentao could still hear every word. In fact, even if he didn't hear them speak, he already knew their way of thinking. He had expelled a perfectly good talent that could have brought glory to their ancestors. Now everybody saw him as a fool. Thinking a little, Bailey Zhentao felt his face heat up. Today, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance had truly destroyed their face. TL note: face in Chinese is used synonymously with pride. Who was known as Trash? A person capable of easily winning the hunting competition was known as Trash? Then what would everyone else competing be known as? Under everybody's eyes, Su Weining was even more ashamed. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's future was boundless. Thinking back, she was truly embarrassed. A Cordonunch took the demonic core from Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and brought it to Xianyuan Yutian. When Xianyuan Huan looked at the core in his hands, his lips raised to expose a pleased smile. This really is the Storm Wolf's core. Chun Wangfei truly wasn't simple. Bailey Hongzhuang performed the courtesy. Your Majesty is too generous. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's elegant appearance as she performed the courtesy, everybody's hearts were moved. This was a true genius. After confirming Bailey Hongzhuang was the winner, the other cultivators took out the demonic cores they had collected in the hunting grounds. Second and third place was determined by the number of demonic cores you held. Xianyuan Huan was fully deserving of second place, and Xiao Zifan was third. At first Xiao Zifan was surprised when he saw the results, but then soon understood. Many of the demonic cores were from when he helped Bailey Hongzhuang face off against the crowd of hell wolves. Demonic beasts weren't very common, so it'd usually take a long time to find one. Only when he was surrounded by a flock was he able to get so many so quickly. He had a lot of cores, but the amount Bailey Hongzhuang held was probably incomparable to anyone else's here. Even Xianyuan Huan wouldn't have enough. After crowning the top three, Xianyuan Yutian gave the awards on the spot. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the demonic beast egg in her hands, a small smile slowly appearing on her face. Her spirit beast was just inside the eggshell. Demonic beast eggs weren't unhatched demonic beasts, but were actually young demonic beasts sealed with a mysterious technique. Usually demonic beasts were unwilling to be spirit beasts, so they would be sealed when they're young and would only come out of the shell after they formed a contract with somebody. Xianyuan Huan got the bone cleaning pill and Xiao Zifan received his lotus cloud fungoid. Everybody stared at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two enviously. From today on, their names would be known all over the country. In the crowd, just as the hunting feast's curtain began to close, two figures slowly made their way to the high platform. Everybody looked at two men curiously. With their experience, they naturally knew the two's identities weren't simple. We pay respects to the emperor. Xinyuan Yutian smiled when he saw the two men. Teacher Lu, Teacher Fu, please get up. Chapter 162. These two are the Azure Water School's recruiting teachers. Xinyuan Huan introduced the two to everyone. Hearing the name, Azure Water School, everyone's faces changed. The young cultivator's enthusiasm grew even more. Gazing excitedly at the landing teacher Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo Azure Water School, situated between Fengbo Country and Clear Flame Country's borders, they were a school specialized for producing talented cultivators. Every young cultivator dreamed of one day entering this place. Becoming a student of Azure Water School was already a great honor in itself. Nowadays, if a person were to say they were from Azure Water School, everybody would turn to look at them with respect and admiration. That place was full of talents and abundant resources. If a cultivator could enter, their cultivating speed would be far faster than anything they could achieve at home. The only thing was, Azure Water School's entry requirements were very strict. Each year, only a few cultivators were able to enter. Every entry day, Azure Water School would send a few teachers to recruit new talents. If the teacher thought you had talent, they would ask you to go to the Azure Water School when the moment comes to participate in the examination. You had one sole chance to participate in the exam and that was it. Only after passing the would your ability be enough to be allowed entry into Azure Water School. Apart from this, there was still another exception. Very rarely, Azure Water School had a kind of invitation letter. If a teacher believed firmly in a cultivator, they would bestow them an invitation letter. When the time came, the cultivator didn't need to take the exam and could directly enter Azure Water School. A student capable of earning such a letter undoubtedly had talent. From a young age, their strength should have always been the strongest among their peers. The youthful faces were all a bit nervous. The recruiting teachers appeared so suddenly. It was quite possible for them to have found a cultivator they liked. Maybe it was them. Bailey Hongzhuang also stared when Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo appeared. According to Xinyuan Yuqian's and the others' earlier reactions, she knew the one little black and little white had sensed back then weren't them. That means the ones who were watching earlier must have been Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo. In that case, the Hell Wolves' attack were also because of them. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo sensed Bailey Hongzhuang's stare, their faces exposing a friendly smile. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped watching them, her face completely indifferent. Regarding the two men who placed her in danger, she had no desire to smile back at them. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude, Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo didn't mind. Turning to speak, Emperor, we've found two pretty good seedlings in the hunting competition. Hearing them, Xinyuan Yutian smiled. His gaze couldn't help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Bailey Hongzhuang had the best performance in this year's hunting competition. It was simply incomparable to anyone else's. Earlier he had wanted to take the chance to send Huaner to study at Azure Water School, since he believed that Huaner's strength was definitely enough to shine brightly in the hunting competition. But he never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was even stronger. The important seedling Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo found was most likely Bailey Hongzhuang. Everybody suddenly understood. It was no wonder that the rewards were so rich. Because Azure Water School was also attending. The richer the award, the higher the competitor's moral will be. A higher moral meant that they would show a better performance, thereby possibly attracting the Azure Water School's teachers' attention. Chapter 163. I wonder which two cultivators the teachers have chosen? Although he already knew the answer, Xinyuan Yutian still asked. The Crown Prince Xinyuan Huan, that youngster there, and that girl are all quite nice. Lu Huayan smiled. Xiao Zifan was astonished when he saw Lu Huayan's finger point at him. He couldn't believe it. Me? Me? Yes, you. Lu Huayan was certain. Whether it was strength or talent, Xinyuan Huan was very good. Although his persistence and determination were a little off, once he entered the Azure Water School, it would no longer be a problem. That was because Azure Water School's cultivation was cruel. It was like a greenhouse, where they would only treasure the flowers and throw out the weeds. Xiao Zifan's strength was only average, but he was very bright, which was something they appreciated very much. Other than Xiao Zifan, another woman called Zhang Han was also filled with excitement. She had never thought that she'd be selected. Gazes of admiration and envy stared at Xiao Zifan and Zhang Han. Being able to attract the Azure Water School teacher's attention was truly enviable. I don't know if you three would be interested in partaking in our Azure Water School's exam? Although Fu Hongbo was asking, he wasn't worried. This was a chance that no cultivator would refuse. Just as expected, Xianyuan Huan and the other two all nodded their heads. This was a huge opportunity for them. So long as they tried hard in the examination, their cultivation would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. But everybody was staring at Bailey Hongzhuang doubtfully. This year, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was clearly the best. So why didn't they mention Bailey Hongzhuang's name? Everyone's face was different. All kinds of conjectures popping into their heads. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang used a scheme to get to first place so the two teachers didn't care about her? Su Wanjing's numb eyes suddenly had a ray of light. She immediately thought Bailey Hongzhuang must have used a shameful method. However, the next moment, the two teachers did something that made everyone stare with wide eyes. They could only see Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo walk slowly to Bailey Hongzhuang. Shockingly, a shining violet invitation letter appeared in their hands. Miss Bailey, are you interested in joining our Azure Water School? Fu Hongbo asked smilingly. Seeing the purple invite, everybody sucked in a cold breath. An invitation letter. It's actually an Azure Water School invitation letter. Bailey Hongzhuang actually got the Azure Water School's invitation letter. The letter was something many cultivators dreamed of, but many more didn't even dare to hope for it. The two teachers' question was as different as black and white. Even Xianyuan Huan, the crown prince, only got the chance to participate in the exam. But Bailey Hongzhuang was allowed to directly enter Azure Water School. There was no need for an exam. The two tutors already firmly believed in her talent. At this moment everyone was clear. It wasn't that the two teachers didn't care about Bailey Hongzhuang, but that Bailey Hongzhuang was actually the most important part. Too awesome. After everyone hears, who knows how many people will be stunned? Xiao Zifen was briefly surprised, but soon his face was filled with pure joy. Bailey Hongzhuang really isn't simple. To actually be able to get the two teachers' approval. Zhao Yunqi revealed a bitter smile. She wasn't even able to take part in Azure Water School's exam, If Fu Hongbo and Lu Huayan taking out the invitation letter was shocking, Bailey Hongzhuang's next words were even more unbelievable. Chapter 164. Not interested. Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo were startled. Before, it had always been others begging them to bestow an invitation. This was the first time they were rejected. The moment Bailey Hongzhuang's words came out, the crowd fell silent. Everyone's mouths had fallen open. This was a rare chance. Bailey Hongzhuang actually refused? You don't want to join Azure Water School? Lu Huayan asked doubtfully why. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. No reason. Do you hate Azure Water School? Fu Hongbo was puzzled. The glory of Azure Water School was something almost no cultivator would refuse. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head a little. I don't care about the school. I just hate you two. She hated the teachers. Everybody's mouths twitched. They truly didn't know what to say. The reason why Bailey Hongzhuang refused the invitation to Azure Sky School was actually because of the two recruitment teachers. What did the two teachers do to provoke you? Hate us? Fu Hongbo and Lu Huayan looked at each other. Bailey Hongzhuang's answer had baffled them. Before this, we've never even met. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brow and smiled gently. Are you sure? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Fu Hongbo and Lu Huayan's hearts thumped loudly. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang actually did see them that day? How was it like throwing me into trouble and then sitting back to watch the show? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips were curved, a voice cold with a trace of sarcasm. Now Fu Hongbo and Lu Huayan were sure. Bailey Hongzhuang had really found them out that day. Not only that, but she even knew that they were the ones who had set up the Hell Wolves after her. After a brief period of shock, Fu Hongbo and Lu Huayan were now aware that Bailey Hongzhuang was even more extraordinary than they had previously thought. If it was another cultivator, there was no chance that they'd be able to figure it out. Even though they provoked the Hell Wolves, they left no clues behind. It should have been impossible for somebody to find them. Yet Bailey Hongzhuang not only found them, but even knew it was all connected. This revelation couldn't help but make them wonder. Was it them watching the show from the sidelines, or Bailey Hongzhuang? Was she really just a 15-year-old young girl? Her meticulous mind was simply monstrous. But they liked it. As Azure Water School's teachers, what kind of genius haven't they seen? They weren't interested in the average geniuses which only followed everyone else. What truly interested them were monsters like Bailey Honghang. Right, they wanted monsters. The reason why geniuses were known as geniuses were because they possessed a monstrous side. Bailey Hongzhuang was only at the Initao stage of Mysterious Ian, but was actually able to discover them all while battling the Hellwolves. Just how monstrous was her spirit force? Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang was worth even more than they had thought. No matter what, they needed to convince her to enroll in Azure Water School. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Xinyuan Yuqian on the platform above her. Emperor, may I ask if the hunting feast is over? Xinyuan Yuqian nodded yes. Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang performed the courtesy. In that case, I will retire first. She had always led her life alone. Even heaven couldn't interfere, how could she let other people? Although he knew Fu Hongbo and Lu Huayan's actions had reasons behind them, she had never wanted to go through the test. It was something they had completely forced upon her. She didn't care about Azure Sky School. Chapter 165. Right after she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to leave the rest area. Everyone was in a daze as they watched her leave. Wasn't this just too rude? Bailey Hongzhuang had directly rejected the two teachers' invitation without another word. Even her words sounded as if she was too lazy to deal with the two. Her identity seemed to change in front of everybody's eyes. Xinyuan Yutian's face was also a bit awkward. The royal hunting competition had already ended, so it wasn't exactly wrong for Bailey Hongzhuang to leave. But thinking reasonably, wasn't that just a terrible time to leave? Teacher Lu, Teacher Fu. Xinyuan Yutian slowly started to talk. With his identity as the country's monarch, he usually didn't need to be worried about other people's displeasure. But Azure Water School's identity was special. Its position was very deep-rooted, and its influence was enormous. Many powerful experts came from the school. Its only goal was to grow the cultivator's strength and never asked anything in return. However, every single cultivator was grateful to Azure Water School as their alma mater. If their alma mater were to meet with a mishap, they wouldn't just stand by and let it die. Some of the students who had turned into famous cultivators assisted Azure Water School and donated resources to them to return the favor. So even though Azure Water School seemed to just be an ordinary school, its identity was actually very complicated. The slightest move would affect everyone else. Even Xinyuan Yutian didn't want to offend them. After all, many of Fengbo country's cultivators were also studying there. What's more, Xinyuan Huan was also preparing to cultivate in Azure Water School. Everybody thought that Fu Hongbo and Lu Huayan would get angry after Bailey Hongzhuang's response, but the two's reactions were completely different from their expectations. They could only see them continuing to smile at Xinyuan Yutian. Congratulations, Emperor. It seems like there are many good seedlings in the younger generation. We have some business to do, so we'll take our leave first. Watching the two's reactions, Xinyuan Yutian knew that the two weren't angry at Bailey Hongzhuang, but were actually even more interested in her. He nodded his head. Since you two have something you need to do, I shall not detain you. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo nodded, at once leaving in Bailey Hongzhuang's direction. Damn, have I seen wrongly? Even after Bailey Hongzhuang refused to join Azure Water School, they are still rushing to ask her? Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's strength isn't bad, the two teachers shouldn't need to chase so desperately, right? In the end, what happened? I don't understand anything. Everybody looked at each other. Bailey Hongzhuang's response was strange, and the two teachers' reaction was even stranger. Could it be that she was straight up trying to get rid of them instead of doing business? Was it that the more Bailey Hongzhuang refused, the more Azure Water School wanted to invite her? Watching the two teachers hurriedly leave as if they were afraid of convincing Bailey Hongzhuang a second late, everybody was left speechless. There was no natural order of things. They had to stake their lives just to hope for a chance to enter Azure Water School, and still needed the teachers to give a nod of approval. But Bailey Honghang was just simply an arrogant idler, and yet other people come running to her. The gap between them and her was just too big. Although all the chancellors seemed to be calm and collect in their hearts, they were actually extremely shocked. This Bailey Hongzhuang may be able to even go against the heavens, ah. With that, the royal family's hunting competition was over. Although Li Changqian was very unhappy with Bailey Hongzhuang's performance, after seeing Bailey Zhentao's thick-skinned face turn dark, his heart became very delighted. Edited by Alex. Chapter 166. Right after she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to leave the rest area. Everyone was in a daze as they watched her leave. Wasn't this just too rude? Bailey Hongzhuang had directly rejected the two teachers' invitation without another word. Even her words sounded as if she was too lazy to deal with the two. Her identity seemed to change in front of everybody's eyes. Xinyuan Yutian's face was also a bit awkward. The royal hunting competition had already ended, so it wasn't exactly wrong for Bailey Hongzhuang to leave. But thinking reasonably, wasn't that just a terrible time to leave? Teacher Lu, Teacher Fu. Xinyuan Yutian slowly started to talk. With his identity as the country's monarch, he usually didn't need to be worried about other people's displeasure. But Azure Water School's identity was special. Its position was very deep-rooted, and its influence was enormous. Many powerful experts came from the school. Its only goal was to grow the cultivator's strength and never asked anything in return. However, every single cultivator was grateful to Azure Water School as their alma mater. If their alma mater were to meet with a mishap, they wouldn't just stand by and let it die. Some of the students who had turned into famous cultivators assisted Azure Water School and donated resources to them to return the favor. So even though Azure Water School seemed to just be an ordinary school, its identity was actually very complicated. The slightest move would affect everyone else. Even Xinyuan Yutian didn't want to offend them. After all, many of Fengbo country's cultivators were also studying there. What's more, Xinyuan Huan was also preparing to cultivate in Azure Water School. Everybody thought that Fu Hongbo and Lu Huayan would get angry after Bailey Hongzhuang's response, but the two's reactions were completely different from their expectations. They could only see them continuing to smile at Xinyuan Yutian. Congratulations, Emperor. It seems like there are many good seedlings in the younger generation. We have some business to do, so we'll take our leave first. Watching the two's reactions, Xinyuan Yutian knew that the two weren't angry at Bailey Hongzhuang, but were actually even more interested in her. He nodded his head. Since you two have something you need to do, I shall not detain you. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo nodded, at once leaving in Bailey Hongzhuang's direction. Damn, have I seen wrongly? Even after Bailey Hongzhuang refused to join Azure Water School, they are still rushing to ask her? Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's strength isn't bad, the two teachers shouldn't need to chase so desperately, right? In the end, what happened? I don't understand anything, ah. Everybody looked at each other. Bailey Hongzhuang's response was strange, and the two teachers' reaction was even stranger. Could it be that she was straight up trying to get rid of them instead of doing business? Was it that the more Bailey Hongzhuang refused, the more Azure Water School wanted to invite her? Watching the two teachers hurriedly leave as if they were afraid of convincing Bailey Hongzhuang a second late, everybody was left speechless. There was no natural order of things. They had to stake their lives just to hope for a chance to enter Azure Water School, and still needed the teachers to give a nod of approval. But Bailey Hongzhuang was just simply an arrogant idler, and yet other people come running to her. The gap between them and her was just too big. Although all the chancellors seemed to be calm and collect in their hearts, they were actually extremely shocked. This Bailey Hongzhuang may be able to even go against the heavens, ah. With that, the royal family's hunting competition was over. Although Li Changqian was very unhappy with Bailey Hongzhuang's performance, after seeing Bailey Zhentao's thick-skinned face turn dark, his heart became very delighted. Chapter 167. I don't think she refused the invitation because of Azure Water School, but because of us making the flock of hell wolves attack her. It's true that we didn't handle it very well. Fu Hongbo's face was calm. That girl isn't a petty person, and probably won't bother about that. From what they see of Bailey Hongzhuang's behavior towards Zhao Yunqi, if she was truly a petty-minded person, she wouldn't have let Zhao Yunqi off. Lu Huayan nodded slightly. This was also one of the points he admired about Bailey Hongzhuang. Oh! News about Bailey Hongzhuang receiving first place for the royal family's hunting competition swept through the imperial city like wind. The people who heard this news was completely stunned. This was a true dark horse who wins the competition. Before, some people had thought first place would be Xianyuan Huan, and other people thought that it had belonged to Bailey Yuyan. But nobody had ever thought Bailey Honghang would get first, although it was already known that the trash had gotten prettier. This time Bailey Honghang had used her own strength to show everybody she wasn't trash. In the royal family's hunting competition, Bailey Hongzhuang completely washed off the title of trash. But before everybody could recover from their shock, another piece of news came, shocking everyone until they couldn't even open their mouths. Azure Water School personally issued an invitation letter, but Bailey Hongzhuang unexpectedly rejected it. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang declined, the two recruiting teachers actually didn't get the least bit angry. Instead, they went and continued to try and persuade Bailey Hongzhuang. What was called domineering? This was called domineering. All the cultivators were racking their brains for a chance to enter Azure Water School, but Bailey Hongzhuang was able to think over whether she wanted to go or not. With this, the gaps completely appeared. At this moment, Bailey Honghang had a headache. All over the city, everybody was talking about Bailey Hongzhuang, the Imperial City's #1 beauty, Fengbo Country's #1 physician, and Azure Water School's personally invited genius. The three titles condensed into a halo around one person. Her power was stunning. Hearing everyone talk, Li Huayan and Fu Hongbo gained a better understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang. The more they heard, the more they knew Bailey Hongzhuang truly wasn't simple. A 15-year-old girl who was always called trash her whole life, suddenly brilliantly blossomed, but was still able to stay calm and collected. Just this temperament alone was enough to make one feel fearful. Although they didn't know why Bailey Hongzhuang was always silently enduring it for so long. Being capable of enduring 15 years of unwarranted abuse, then suddenly gaining such power and accomplishments, one could only imagine how tough her heart was. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo looked at each other. They had still underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang. This Bailey Hongzhuang's future isn't simple. Fu Hongbo's face revealed deep emotion. Now he could finally understand how Bailey Hongzhuang was able to stay so calm and collected, even while being trapped by a flock of hell wolves. Because after living 15 years cursed and spat on, disdained despite being able to cultivate, her heart was unshakable. The strong ought to have their requirements, and she posses them all. Lu Huayan nodded slightly. We found an amazing girl. The two looked at each other, smiling. They were even more intent on recruiting Bailey Hongzhuang. From the steward's words, Bailey Hongzhuang learned a little bit about Azure Water School. Before, she was always holed up in the general's household. She didn't even know the basics of cultivation, never mind Azure Water School. Azure Water School had already stood for more than a millennium. Its reputation was very good, and the majority of the cultivators capable of entering all saw a large growth in their strength. That was also why so many cultivators were all racking their heads over how they could join Azure Water School. Chapter 168. 1,000 years ago, Bailey Honghang would have known all the big and famous schools. Although cultivating in schools weren't like cultivating in an aristocratic family, it could still strongly boost a cultivator's power. After all, only after seeing other geniuses would one recognize their own weaknesses and arouse their fighting spirit. Otherwise, if you just stayed alone, your cultivation would inevitably stagnate. Master, this Azure Water School is a pretty good place to go. From the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang had planned to learn through experience. Cultivating comfortably inside wasn't very good for her growth. She needed to find more rivals, letting her break through again and again past her limits. Joining Azure Water School, Bailey Hongzhuang could meet many amazing cultivators. The school's resources and practical experiences weren't lacking, and it seemed to be even more suitable than going alone. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly nodded her head. Azure Water School isn't bad, but that's not the reason I don't want to go. The next day, the sun shined as birds sang and fragrant flowers bloomed. Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating in her room when a maid came in with news. Azure Water School's teachers had come. Hearing this information, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. Without needing to think, she already knew it was the two from yesterday. Chun Palace's foyer. Bailey Hongzhuang had just arrived at the foyer to see Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo contentedly snacking on the refreshments, taking small sips of tea and occasionally saying a few words of praise. These two guys were truly too relaxed. Miss Bailey came. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Lu Huayan's face revealed a smile. After a night of sleep, I wonder if you thought it over? Still the same. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Fu Hongbo placed down the tea and stood up. The smile on his face slowly disappeared, replaced by a deep and serious expression. I know that you don't wish to join Azure Water School because of our test. We were truly wrong about that. The strength you displayed had attracted out attention, and so we only wanted to probe you out a little. So we apologize to you. Fu Hongbo's eyes were earnest and sincere. As an elder, he didn't feel wrong apologizing to a junior. After all, if something like this happened to him, he would also be very unhappy. I hope you don't mind. Lu Huayan's lips rippled with a faint smile. They knew clearly that even though the girl was abused for more than 10 years, her self-esteem absolutely wasn't allowed to be trampled on. In Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, their actions truly weren't the least bit respectful. The two's apologies were far beyond Bailey Hongzhuang's expectations. She had never thought that the two had come in the morning to apologize. As Azure Water School's teachers, they were the object of admiration by many. But now they came to apologize to her. In this case, she was only unhappy that the other side wanted to test her. But she knew that to select the best, it was still quite normal. This was a world that followed the laws of the jungle. The rules were always written by the strong, and the weak could only watch. But watching the two apologize so seriously, a trace of warmth couldn't help but appear in her heart. An elegant smile bloomed on Bailey Hongzhuang's blossom-like lips. I would also like to apologize for my earlier behavior. Since Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo already took a step back, she naturally couldn't continue to keep a grudge. Their manners even made her admire them a little. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Fu Hongbo and Lu Huayan immediately sat back in their original positions and continued to sample the refreshments. Girl, your home's refreshments really aren't bad. Seeing the two's attitudes change so fast and even immediately changing the topic, Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth twitched. It looked like it was impossible for these two guys to stay serious. A faint smile slowly emerged in her black eyes. She had already begun to get used to Fu Hongbo's personality. Since you think it's pretty good, I'll get the kitchen to prepare some more for you to take back, Bailey Hongzhuang said, indifferent. Haha. This girl truly knows how to talk. Fu Hongbo laughed brightly. In 1 month, Azure Water School will send an announcement. You mustn't arrive late. Lu Huayan urged. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly. I'll arrive on time. Since it's like this, we have to go now. You must work hard. We'll be waiting for you at Azure Water School. Fu Hongbo smiled. Okay. Right after Bailey Hongzhuang sent off the two teachers, she spotted Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi standing in front of the palace gates. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come out, Xiao Zifan waved. Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrow. She actually didn't expect for Xiao Zifan to come here himself. The royal hunting competition just finished, so everybody should be recuperating in their homes. You guys are looking for me? Xiao Zifan nodded his head. Today Tianxiang Market is having an auction. I heard that there'll be lots of treasures inside, so Yunqi and I just happened to stop by and wanted to tell you. Are you interested? Auction. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes swam, a bright smile making its way onto her lips. I would also like to watch. For cultivators in Shangxua continent, in addition to shops, there were another way for them to find what they wanted. Auctions. Auctions were all about cultivators. The items' value were often higher than the normal shop's items, but it was also far more expensive. Bailey Hongzhuang was also very interested in the competition. Perhaps she could find some of the stuff she needed there. Right now, the thing she lacked most was a good weapon. Ordinary swords simply wouldn't do. That could clearly be seen with how the Hell Wolf King had snapped it with a single bite. The auction starts at 3 o'clock. We'll meet directly in Tianxiang Market. Xiao Zifan smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Now it was too early and the auction wouldn't begin for quite a while. First, she should go take a look at the beast egg. After learning about Azure Water School last night, she had actually completely forgotten about the beast egg. Thinking of it now, she too wanted to know what kind of spirit beast it was. Returning inside, Bailey Hongzhuang took out the demonic beast egg. It was only 20 centimeters tall, its whole body completely white. Complicated, abstruse patterns appeared around it. These were the seals binding its strength. Bailey Hongzhuang also knew a bit about spirit beasts, but seeing this demonic beast seal, she couldn't help but frown. After 1,000 years, the seal was very different from what she had remembered. Master, I don't. This seal is ordinary. Ah. Little Black spoke up. Little White nodded. I think that the demonic beast sealed inside is even more unordinary. I can sense its energy fluctuations. Little Black and Little White were also a kind of spirit beast, but they themselves didn't know what beasts they were. Unlike humanity, demonic beasts were hierarchical. If a low-level demonic beast encountered a high-level one, it would instinctively acknowledge allegiance. Although Little Black and Little White didn't know what kind of demonic beasts they were, they clearly weren't weak. Since it could even make Little White say it wasn't simple, it was clear that the demonic beast inside was absolutely extraordinary. Chapter 170. The royal family being able to put an ordinary spirit beast as the prize was already very costly, but they could actually still bear to give a powerful one? Her clear eyes were filled with surprise. Originally, she didn't have much hope with the spirit beast egg. After all, even if Fengbo country somehow managed to get a powerful spirit beast, there was no way that they'd give it to her. But now it looked very different from what she'd expected. I don't think that the royal family knew how special this spirit beast egg was. This egg has a power that blocks the spirit beast's power fluctuations. Only we can sense them. Little White spoke up. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved. So basically, I got a big bargain. Although she still didn't know what kind of beast was inside. At the very least, Bailey Hongzhuang knew it definitely wasn't weak. Different spirit beasts had different strengths. Their potentials were different. If the spirit beast's rank was low, then even if the owner knew how to nurture it properly, its achievements would still be limited. That was because they didn't have very much potential. But if the spirit beast's rank was high, it'd have lots of room to grow, giving far more help to its master. Bailey Hongzhuang no longer hesitated. Directly taking a knife to cut her finger, she allowed a small drop of blood to drip on the spirit beast's shell. With the drop of blood, the patterns on the shell bloomed with golden light, shining in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. It was lucky that it was daytime. If it was night, the brilliant flashes of light would have long attracted other cultivators. The fine drop of blood quickly flowed over the patterns and continued to glide. Wherever it went, the seals dissipated. When the drop of blood finally stopped moving, all the seals had vanished. Blood oozed through the shell, blending into the space between the spirit beast's eyebrows. Cracking sounds came from the eggshell. Bailey Hongzhuang and the two fluff balls curiously peered inside the shell. They were all very curious about the spirit beast inside. The first thing that appeared was a furry white paw. The tiny paw was extremely cute. Then, the eggshell was shattered and similarly furry head appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Master! A childish voice shouted at Bailey Hongzhuang. Filled with dependence and curiosity, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips twitched as she looked at the thing that could only be described as a house pet in front of her. This is what you guys called a strong and powerful spirit beast? In front of her, there was only a white, furry body curiously looking around. As far as the eye could see, it was no different from a pet dog. Just a single glance was capable of snatching a woman's heart. But still, this was completely different from Bailey Hongzhuang's imagination. She had thought that a high-ranked spirit beast would have a mighty and domineering appearance, but in front of her was only a small white dog. If everyone heard this, she was afraid that they'd die from laughing. Little Black and Little White's faces were also stunned as they looked at the white creature. This figure. It was also different from their imaginations. Little White finally moved closer in front of the white creature, carefully sizing up the spirit beast's appearance. It didn't know any demonic beast that looked like this. Little Black pointed at its forehead. Master, look. King is written on its forehead. T/N, the Chinese character for king, is Wang. So is written on its forehead, not the actual English letters / Chinese pinyin. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang grabbed the spirit beast and looked at its forehead. Sure enough, a character was printed on there. Seeing the king character and then looking at the little white dog, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but find it very funny. What king? Puppy king? Bailey Hongzhuang was speechless. Pfft. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang call it a puppy king, Little Black and Little White couldn't help but laugh. This was just too funny. Master, maybe it's because this spirit beast is only a newborn, so the appearance was a little off. Maybe it's actually a tiger, ah. Little White said. Bailey Hongzhuang examined the spirit beast, traces of doubt in her eyes. I hope so. It was hard to really understand anything about a demonic beast. The only thing you could think of was how utterly adorable it was. There was a chance that it would become an amazing spirit beast later. After all, both Little Black and Little White believed that its rank wasn't low. Do you guys know what kind of spirit beast this is? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. She saw many demonic beasts, but they were practically all adult beasts. She truly didn't know much about baby demonic beasts. Little Black and Little White looked at each other before shaking their heads. We don't know. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the spirit beast and asked, what kind of spirit beast are you? Ordinary spirit beasts weren't able to open their mouths to talk, unless they were strong enough to change into their humanoid forms. However, if the spirit beast and master were very close, they could form a spirit link to communicate with spirit force. That way, they were at least able to have a tacit understanding of each other. The spirit beast shook its head, slowly speaking, don't know. Hearing its answer, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't surprised. It was also very pitiful, being sealed immediately after birth. It didn't even know what kind of demonic beast it was. But that wasn't a problem. As long as it grew up, she would naturally know what it was. Later on, we'll all be one family. Bailey Hongzhuang petted the beast, smiling. Master, give this little guy a name. Little Black said laughingly. Bailey Hongzhuang thought deeply before finally speaking. We'll call you Baishur. T/N Baishur equals white lion. She believed that from the king character on its head, it shouldn't be weak. So, its name shouldn't be any weaker than its rank. After Bailey Hongzhuang chose the name Baishur, she found Little Black and Little White staring at her indignantly. Facing the two fluffballs' eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. Why are you guys looking at me like that? Master, why weren't you this good when you were giving us names? Little Black's eyes were filled with resentment. Such a terrible name was the biggest stain of its life. Ah. One look and you know we aren't truly loved. Just how many dogs have such a great name? Little White said angrily. In the primordial chaos ring, they had originally wished for their names to be resounded all over China. But thinking of their current names, they couldn't help but shed bitter tears. Little White, this name just sounded too weak. How could a world-famous demonic beast have such a name? It truly couldn't face it. Hearing Little Black and Little White's grievances, Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth twitched. These two guys were too serious. The names were only code names. But she clearly knew that the two fluffballs wouldn't listen to her. That's not it necessarily true. Right now, I'll give you two a super domineering combination name. Bailey Hongzhuang said smilingly. What new name? Little White and Little Black asked, eyes wide. Black and White Fiends. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrow. How is it? Isn't it very domineering? Little Black and Little White paused, before trying to act cool by rolling their eyes. It's so. But their lips couldn't help but curve and reveal their true thought. That name really was powerful. Chapter 172. Bailey Hongzhuang instructed the servants to prepare food for Baishur. Spirit beasts always needed to eat lots of food, and after being sealed away so long without eating, Baishur was naturally very hungry. Seeing the food, Baishur excitedly rubbed across Bailey Hongzhuang's leg before rushing headforth into the food. But when everyone saw how much food Baishur was eating, their eyes were all filled with astonishment. Oh no, there's another glutton. Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth twitched. Little Black and Little White were already able to eat, but she never expected that Baishur could eat even more than those two. Just buying cultivation resources for herself was already like a bottomless pit. Now that she's also raising 3 prodigal songs, she really doesn't have enough money. Thinking of it, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but take out the demonic cores. These demonic cores are also pretty useful. Since there's an auction in the afternoon, it's better to take out a few pills to participate. While Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking about what pills to bring for the auction, Baishur's twinkling eyes had already locked onto the demonic core in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. Master want. Baishur left its food to walk towards Bailey Hongzhuang, its voice like milk. Hearing its words, Bailey Hongzhuang raised the tip of her brow. You want the demonic core? Baisher nodded its head. Want? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was doubtful. Although she didn't know what Baisher wanted to do with the demonic core, since it wants, it could have it. As she placed the demonic core in front of Baisher, the two fluffballs stared confusedly. This guy shouldn't be able to absorb it right away, should it? Little White asked questioningly. The demonic core was the same as a demonic beast's cultivational essence. After reaching a certain level of strength, a demonic beast could directly absorb a demonic core to increase their own strength. However, it wasn't easy. A demonic beast's energy was very violent. Only a very powerful demonic beast could easily absorb it. The demonic core Bailey Hongzhuang got this time wasn't weak at all. Although Little Black and Little White could still absorb it, Baisher was still young and its body wasn't strong enough. I don't know, let's just look what happens. Little Black answered. Even if Baisher could absorb it, it can't absorb a lot. Since Baisher took the initiative to ask for it, it shouldn't be a problem. After Baisher saw the core, its eyes lit up with even more excitement. It charged at the core. A crisp sound echoed in the air. The demonic core was cracked. Baisher reached out with its soft, red tongue and licked the liquid out of the core, absorbing everything into its body. Soon after, it also chewed on the shell before swallowing it completely. After it was finished eating, Baisher licked its mouth before continuing to eat the rest of its food. Damn, no way! Little Black was stunned. What is this guy made of? How could it eat a whole demonic core? This shouldn't be right. Little White was completely bewildered. This was something they truly hadn't expected to see. Her ink-black eyes were like jade as they twinkled with light. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at its furry body, the corners of her mouth bursting forth with a bright and beautiful smile. Just watching Baisher's actions, she already knew that the little guy wasn't simple. The demonic core Baisher ate just now was one of the hell wolves. If a demonic beast's innate strength wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't be able to absorb the energy. How big was Baisher's potential? It was capable of eating the entire demonic core safely, which proved that its innate power was very strong. She believed that this time she had truly picked up a treasure. Baisher wasn't an ordinary spirit beast at all. Chapter 173. Thinking up to here, Bailey Hongzhuang grew a bit happy. By just a little bit, it seemed that supporting this prodigal son was worth it. Time passed by in an instant and it was finally time for the auction. Bailey Hongzhuang packed her things and left for Tianxiang Trading Commerce. The passerbys' faces all turned excited when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang appear. Right now, the most famous person in all of Fengbo country was Chen Wangfei. Before, the three most popular geniuses were Shen Yuanhuan, Bailey Yuyan, and Li Yuyue, so everybody thought that whether if it was Bailey Yuyan or Li Yuyue, they'd all be a good match for Shen Yuanhuan. But the trash they had always disdained turned out to be the most shocking genius of them all. She proved to everybody with facts that this was true talent. Bailey Hongzhuang was the idol of many young cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang had suffered from all kinds of humiliation, but now finally her bitterness had finished and sweetness begins. Since Bailey Hongzhuang could do it, how couldn't they? Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao Zifen immediately smiled and walked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, you came. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. You guys came here first. We had only just arrived. Xiao Zifen smiled brightly. Next month, I'll be taking Azure Water School's assessment, so my father allowed me to go to the auction to see if there's anything that suits me. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly looked around, finding that many of the people here were rather young. The items that appeared in an auction was far better than the ones in the store. If they could find something that was suitable for them, that would definitely be best. At the same time, everybody else was also staring at Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, it was impossible not to pay Bailey Hongzhuang any attention. Today, Bailey Hongzhuang was wearing a simple white dress, clearly displaying her temperament. Her delicately flawless face seemed perfect from every angle. Just by standing there, she was already a memorable sight. Look, Bailey Hongzhuang came. I wonder if Bailey Hongzhuang ended up choosing whether to go to Azure Water School or not. Refusing such a good opportunity, her courage really isn't small. If I needed to comment, I'd have to say that Chen Wangye really does have the best taste in the entire imperial city, actually being able to bring home and marry such a good woman. If I had known earlier, I definitely would have long gone to the general's household and asked her hand in marriage. Everybody nodded along to his words. Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden rise was the only proof that the general's household had no eyes, losing the pearl. The royal family was the same, but nobody dared to say it aloud. This time, His Highness, the Crown Prince, had truly suffered a loss. A man smiled. Today, I heard that something happened to Li Yu's face. Hearing those words come out, everyone curiously turned to look at him. What happened? Zhao Yunqi giggled as she turned to face Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Zifan. I heard that Li Yu's face somehow got covered in freckles. Now, she could probably change her name to be called Li Matzi, haha. Li Matzi. Li is the surname, Matzi means pockmark. Xiao Zifan was startled. That can't be? How could her face suddenly have freckles on it with no cause or reason? Before, she was always running rampant, acting arrogantly like a peacock. Now she doesn't even dare to leave her room and reveal her face. It serves her right. I've always hated her attitude. Now I doubt that the crown prince will marry a woman covered in pockmarks. Zhao Yunqi laughed, pleased. She truly hated Li Yu's high and mighty attitude, swaggering around the city. Bailey Hongzhuang had a faint smile on her face and didn't speak. This is already His Highness's second engagement. If this one is cancelled as well, then… Xiao Zifan looked distracted. If this got out to the public, the crown prince would be reduced to a joke. If the engagement was cancelled again, and they needed to find another woman to become the crown princess, then… His Highness's marriages would be viewed as a funny tale for all of Fengbo country to hear. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang, secretly sighing with regret. His Highness truly had no eyes. Not long after, Xinyuan Huan arrived at Tianxiang Trading Commerce. But when he entered the hall, Xinyuan Huan felt as if everyone was looking at him strangely. His normally proud and arrogant face was currently a little helpless. First, he wasn't able to get first in the hunting competition. Now there was a problem with his fiancée. Before he came, he had overheard his parents discussing whether or not to once again cancel the engagement, making him feel very powerless. He really had no idea why he had such bad luck. Nothing was going in his favor. The originally loud crowd suddenly became quiet. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the auction hall. The bright lounge was enough to house hundreds of people with room to spare, arranged to display a quiet yet refined elegance. A single look could tell that the decor, although valuable, wasn't the least bit overwhelming. That was where the auction would be held. Wait a bit for me, I'm going to the treasure room. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly spoke. Xiao Zifan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang surprised. You're going to sell something? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and nodded, right? Although you can bring items to sell in the auction before it starts, selling it now, it would only be able to make the next auction. You can't catch the current one. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to look around. Bailey Hongzhuang still smiled. If they didn't accept the treasure, it'd be because it didn't have enough value. If it was worth enough, even if it was too late, they would still devise some way to let you sell it in the auction. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang enter the treasure room anyways, Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi glanced at each other before shrugging. Bailey Hongzhuang entered the treasure room and saw an elderly 60-something old man, his hand propping his chin as he slept. His head moved from time to time but never fell onto the desk. Senior, Bailey Hongzhuang called out. But the senior was clearly still sound asleep. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice wasn't enough to wake him. Senior. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her voice, calling again. Thump. The old man was awoken by the noise, his chin knocking heavily on the table. Aya! The old man rubbed his chin, panting with rage as he spoke. Who interrupted this old man's sleep? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Senior, I came to sell something. Chapter 175. A trace of shock flickered by the old man's eyes when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. He rubbed his chin and sneered. Such a pretty little girl. But even for a pretty little girl like you, disturbing an old man's sleep isn't appropriate. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrow, her eyes crafty. From what she made out, the old man was very unhappy. Senior, you were sleeping when you should have been working. Isn't that even more inappropriate? The old man's face changed. Cough, cough. This old man only closed his eyes. Why said I was sleeping? Didn't you just say I disturbed your sleep? The old man looked around before directly ignoring Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Little girl, what are you selling? I can examine it, but I'm afraid it's too late for it to make it into this auction. Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang took out a white porcelain bottle from her space pouch. The old man looked at the white porcelain bottle, a trace of interest in his eyes. Usually porcelain bottles held pills. Taking the bottle, the old man opened it, a strong medicinal smell permeating through the air. This is a bone-cleansing pill? The old man's face had a trace of astonishment. The bone-cleansing pill was a second-grade pill. It has the ability to cleanse the bone marrow. Everyone's bodies always had some impurities. The bone-cleansing pill would flush out all the impurities and as a result, make it easier to sense spirit power and speed cultivation. Although the bone-cleansing pill's rank wasn't very high, only a single pill master in all of Fengbo country was able to refine it. So usually, a bone-cleansing pill was very rarely seen. Who knew how many cultivators were mad with envy when they heard that the second-place prize was a bone-cleansing pill? But how could this little girl have just taken out 3 bone-cleansing pills? He almost didn't even need to think. Just by bringing it to the auction, it had definitely become the finale, the star of the show. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Senior has good eyes. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's reply, the old man's opinion of Bailey Hongzhuang changed a little. Pill masters were a special existence in Shangxian continent. The fact that she was able to bring out pills was proof that there was a pill master behind her. Since she was even able to bring out bone-cleansing pills, it meant that the pill master was a strong one. With this point, Bailey Hongzhuang's position in the old man's heart suddenly rose dramatically. Such a person must be treated well. Little girl, what should I call you? The old man asked. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. My humble self is named Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing the name Bailey Hongzhuang, the old man's face paused. So this beautiful little girl was actually the famous Bailey Hongzhuang. So it was actually Chen Wangfei. He smiled. This old man is Su Hongyuan. You may call me Old Su. Old Su. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands in greeting. Will my pills make today's auction? Su Hongyuan nodded. Of course it will. The 3 bone-cleansing pills are enough to become this auction's finale. Chen Wangfei can rest assured. It'll definitely be able to fetch a high price. This old man is the manager. The auction house won't take a single cent from this. Her limpid bright eyes filled with astonishment. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately waved. That isn't right. What's ought to be given should be given. Su Hongyuan shook his head, smiling. Just putting the 3 bone-cleansing pills in the auction is already enough to attract a large flock of people. At this point, it's already worth more than the fee. No matter what, I won't accept any commission. Chapter 176. Seeing Su Hongyuan so determined, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer refused. Then I'll thank Old Su. She knew that the most important thing about an auction was the quality of its goods. Even though Tianxiang was the biggest auction house in the imperial city, it still has to compete with other auction houses. Auction houses compete by comparing the quality of the treasures. The guests would then choose to go to whichever one had the more valuable treasures. The 3 bone-cleansing pills were enough to let Tianxiang win the auction, and also allowed Old Su to form a good relationship with her. If Chen Wangfei has similar treasures, we hope that you'll choose to sell them with Tianxiang auction, Old Su said smilingly. Certainly. Leaving the treasure examination room, Bailey Honghang thought about Su Hongyuan's identity. The commission fee for the 3 bone-cleansing pills wasn't small at all. An ordinary worker shouldn't have been able to do that. It seems that Su Hongyuan's position in Tianxiang wasn't small at all. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked back to Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang return, Zhao Yunqi asked, how was it? You couldn't catch the auction? These were the auction's rules. After all, the auction house always sends a brochure of all its items 2 days before the auction to the rich and powerful. How could it be so easy to more items in the auction? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I was lucky and made it just in time. Hearing her words, Zhao Yunqi and Xiao Zifan were shocked, staring at Bailey Hongzhuang in blank astonishment. They wondered if they misheard her. It looks like you brought out something valuable. Xiao Zifan slowly started to understand what happened. Zhao Yunqi suddenly understood. So there was actually such a possibility. This time she truly hadn't thought deeply enough. As the three talked, a premature voice interrupted their conversation. Are you Bailey Hongshuang? Her sharp voice echoed with rudeness and disdain, as if she didn't see anyone as her opponent. Bailey Hongshuang raised an eyebrow. Did she know anyone with such an arrogant voice? Cocking her head, Bailey Hongshuang looked at the woman behind her. The woman seemed to be around 17. Her face was peerlessly beautiful, but the slight tilt of her chin revealed her arrogant nature. She was dressed in an ardent crimson dress, her body emitting a remote and aloof aura. Her style was very distinctive, but looking into her almond eyes filled with contempt, Bailey Hongshuang already had no interest. Daijiman! Zhao Yunqi shouted, astonished. She didn't expect to see her here. Hearing Daijiman's name, Bailey Hongshuang finally knew who the arrogant young woman in front of her was. Daijiman was the daughter of General Dai. Her appearance was outstanding with unsurpassed talent. Last year she had taken Azure Water School's assessment and successfully joined. Up until now, she had been cultivating inside Azure Water School. Nobody expected to see her at Tianxiang auction today. Fengbo country had a large number of generals, and two of them were especially famous. The first one was naturally Bailey Zhantao, and the second was Daijiman's father, Dai Tianxiong General Dai. Only, Bailey Hongshuang never had any interactions with Daijiman. She had no idea why Daijiman was looking for her. Seeing how Bailey Hongshuang still hadn't answered, Daijiman frowned and shouted again, I asked you if you were Bailey Hongshuang. Bailey Hongshuang raised an eyebrow. What? When Daijiman came back, everyone was talking about Bailey Hongshuang. She hadn't expected for a recruiting teacher to give Bailey Hongshuang an invitation letter. An invitation letter from Azure Water School was a student's biggest honor. Everybody who got an invitation letter became one of Azure Water School's people. But she never thought that Bailey Hongshuang dared to refuse the teacher's invitation. What was this? Trash like Bailey Hongshuang managing to attract a teacher's interest was already a godsend, but she actually dared to refuse. Just who did she think she was? Originally she had wanted to teach Bailey Hongshuang a lesson, but hearing Bailey Hongshuang's indifferent words, Daijiman actually didn't know what to say. I heard that you refused the teacher's invitation? Daijiman looked at Bailey Hongshuang with contempt. Don't think just because you're a little strong now, that there's nobody better than you in the whole world. Listening to Daijiman speak, Bailey Hongshuang knew right away that she was deliberately trying to find trouble with her. Are you jealous? Bailey Hongshuang slowly asked. The three words seemed to hit Daijiman's sore spot, her beautiful face quickly turning red with anger. Oh, me? Jealous of you? Daijiman forced herself to suppress the burning hot anger rising in her heart. You're dreaming. What do you have that deserves my jealousy? Since you aren't jealous, why are you saying so much nonsense? Bailey Hongshuang's answer wasn't light. Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi watched. They admired Bailey Hongshuang from the bottom of their hearts. Daijiman obviously came to pick a fight. If it was somebody else, they would have long gone mad with anger handling Daijiman. But Bailey Hongshuang truly had skill. Not only did she remain calm, but instead, even managed to make Daijiman choke with anger. They've already started to faintly sympathize with Daijiman. They knew that even before, Bailey Yuyan's tongue was nothing compared to Bailey Hongshuang's. Daijiman took a deep breath. She just couldn't understand Bailey Hongshuang's style of thinking. How could this scene and the scene she imagined be so different? You dare to say my words are nonsense? Daijiman's eyes were merciless. I really don't understand where your arrogance comes from. Why wouldn't I dare to say that to you? Who do you think you are? Her eyes, deep like a calm pond, flashed with cold light. Bailey Hongshuang's chin raised a little, the corners of her mouth forming a mocking smile. She, Bailey Hongshuang, never liked other people provoking her. But some people just seem to have nothing to do and deliberately tries to pick a fight with her. Just because she didn't speak, doesn't mean that she was so easily bullied. Not just any Tom, Dick, or Jerry could come up and bully her. First, they needed to see if they had the qualifications. Xiao Zifan and the crowd could all clearly feel Bailey Hongshuang's aura change. In just a few moments, her previously calm and approachable air instantly changed cold and ruthless. If you think you're really all so great just because Azure Water School gave you a little attention, you trash, don't blame me for becoming your opponent. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's change, Daijimon was also furious. She was a student of the grand and magnificent Azure Water School. How could she dare to talk to her like that? Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. You called me trash, so I'll ask you. If I, trash, could get an invitation letter from Azure Water School, then what would you, who couldn't even get an invitation letter, be considered as? You court death. Daijimon finally reached her extreme. She reached for her waist, bringing out a long whip. Chapter 178. With her blazing whip, fiery clothes, and her rude, arrogant character, everything truly matched perfectly. Snap! The long whip struck the ground, causing a crisp sound to echo in the air. A crack appeared on the place the whip struck it, clearly displaying its power. I'll show you what I am. Her voice falling, Daijimon didn't hold anything back as she struck the whip mercilessly towards Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Seeing this scene, everybody's face changed. Nobody expected Daijimon to be so vicious, aiming directly for Bailey Hongzhuang's face. They didn't doubt that, if the whip was truly brandished against Bailey Hongzhuang, it would be impossible to avoid getting her flesh shredded. Her beautiful, exquisite face would be covered in hideous scars. The corners of Daijimon's mouth curved into a proud smile. Just wait until she destroyed Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Then she'd like to see how Bailey Hongzhuang could be so arrogant. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed coldly. She and Daijimon didn't have any relationship between them whatsoever. But today she just appeared and immediately wanted to destroy her face. If nobody offended her, she wouldn't offend them. If somebody offended her, she would pay them back 100 times the pain. The next moment, under everybody's shocked eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang faced the whip head first, neither dodging or hiding. Very soon the whip would hit her face. Be careful! Xiao Zifan couldn't help but shout. Everything happened too suddenly. They never thought that Daijimon would actually directly attack, not caring about the sight. Before he could do anything, it was already too late. Drip! Drip! The sound of blood dripping onto the cold, hard floor echoed as everybody stared at the scene, almost forgetting to even breathe. Bailey Hongzhuang's left hand was grabbing Daijimon's long whip. Although blood dripped down her fingers, an enchanting smile still bloomed on her breathtakingly beautiful face. They didn't need to look to imagine how deep the wounds on Bailey Hongzhuang's hand must be. But looking at the smile still on her face, everybody could only feel something was off. Fun! Red lips gently opening, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was filled with charm as if everything was just a joke. Daijimon swallowed as she looked at such a strange Bailey Hongzhuang. She didn't know why, but her heart actually had a sense of dread. She knew just how strong her whip was just now, but she simply didn't understand. How did Bailey Hongzhuang manage to grab her whip at full speed? Since you seem to like destroying other people's faces so much, why don't I give you a taste? Her eyes that were black like a calm pond was swept into a terrifying storm. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly moved, her fingers covered in silver needles, slapping directly at Daijimon's face. Daijimon immediately understood what Bailey Hongzhuang meant and hurriedly tried to swing back her whip before once more striking it at Bailey Hongzhuang. But the whip was still in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. She gripped even tighter, not giving Daijimon a chance to recover her whip. Ah! With the sound of a crisp slap accompanying a loud scream, everyone sucked in a cold breath. On Daijimon's haughty face was 5 fine bloody streaks. With the fresh blood continuously flowing down her face, it was both hideous and horrifying. Feeling the pain on her face, Daijimon subconsciously touched her face. Seeing her hands covered in blood, her face instantly turned pale. Ah! Daijimon screeched. You dared to ruin my face! Chapter 179. You wanted to destroy mine, so why can't I ruin yours? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was indifferent. Even after dealing such a hand, her appearance was the same as ever. I never like to provoke others, but the next time somebody comes to find trouble with me, I won't be polite. Bailey Hongzhuang's face suddenly turned cold, traces of ice swirling in her eyes as her gaze swept over the crowd. Everybody's face changed. In that moment they all knew that the trash known as Bailey Hongzhuang was only a thing in the past. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang had already made a name for herself, nobody took it to heart because their image of the trash, Bailey Hongzhuang, was still deeply rooted in their hearts. But in this moment, looking at her cold face, everybody knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer a disgraced waste. She was a true talent. Whoever dares to provoke her must bear her wrath. A man wearing a forest green embroidered robe entered Tianxiang Auction's lobby. Seeing Dai Jiman's figure, he exposed a smile. But when the man saw her face, his complexion suddenly changed. "Jiman, what happened to you?" Seeing the man come, Dai Jiman seemed to finally found her backbone, immediately wailing, "Lu Gij, you must take revenge for me." Gij equals big brother Lu Jingkuan was also a student of Azure Water School, and was in love with Dai Jiman. Since he heard Dai Jiman went back to the imperial city, he followed her and returned as well. Now seeing the beauty in distress, Lu Jingkuan naturally wouldn't shrink from his duty to protect the flower. "Who did this?" Lu Jingkuan roared angrily. "I did it." Bailey Hongzhuang slowly spoke. "You're here to avenge her?" Lu Jingkuan was filled with anger, his hands reaching towards Bailey Hongzhuang. But when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's face, he couldn't help but freeze. Goodness, what a beautiful woman. Until now, he had always thought that Dai Jiman was already very pretty. But compared to the woman in front of him, Dai Jiman was completely overshadowed. "You did this?" Lu Jingkuan asked. "What's your name?" "Bailey Hongzhuang." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed ruthlessly. "If you want to fight, then fight. I don't have that much spare time to waste with you." Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's tone, everybody was speechless. This Bailey Hongzhuang was truly insane. Lu Jingkuan's cultivation was at the middle stage of mysterious ENA. Bailey Hongzhuang not only didn't back down, but even took the initiative to provoke him. "Lu Gij, what are you waiting for? Help me destroy her face." Dai Jiman urged him. "Oh, okay." Lu Jingkuan's eyes flashed with hesitation. He didn't know if he should fight or not. Facing such a beauty, he didn't think any man would be able to act ruthlessly. Just as Lu Jingkuan was hesitating, Tianxiang's auction staff entered the lounge. The staff member looked at the scene in front of him. Before he had entered, he already heard the whole story. He never expected for Dai Jiman to appear in the auction house. They Tianxiang Trading Commerce covered all of Shangxian continent. Their strength naturally needn't be said. No matter who it was, they would all have to give Tianxiang Trading Commerce some face. Even if there was resentment, the guests would have to solve it after the auction. Otherwise, that wouldn't be giving them face. Over the last few years, so long as a cultivator even so much dared to release their spirit power, they would already be written and blacklisted by Tianxiang Trading Commerce. Nowadays, nobody even thought of making trouble at Tianxiang. When everyone saw Tianxiang Auction's staff appear, they knew in their hearts that the battle was finished. Dai Jiman and Bailey Hongzhuang were out of luck. Chapter 180. Although Tianxiang Trading Commerce was rather low-key nowadays, everybody knew that Tianxiang wasn't a good target to pick a fight with. Even the royal family would have to give Tianxiang a little face. Because even though the royal family had absolute control in Fengbo country, Tianxiang Trading Commerce spanned the entire Shangxian continent. By comparison, Tianxiang Trading Commerce's strength was far more astonishing. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and Dai Jiman caused trouble in a Tianxiang auction house, it was very much possible for them to be blacklisted by Tianxiang. This wasn't a laughing matter. Many stores were under the banner of Tianxiang Trading Commerce. If cultivators wanted to buy cultivation-related things, they would have to buy it from Tianxiang. But if they were blacklisted, their choices would be too narrow. "Miss Dai Chan Wangfei, the auction is about to begin. I hope you two could give me some face and temporarily set your disputes aside, okay?" Shopkeeper Su Xingchuan spoke out. His face was amiable and approachable, with not the slightest hint of anger. Bailey Hongzhuang held back the ice in her eyes and smiled. "I'm truly sorry for interrupting Tianxiang Trading Commerce's auction." Hearing her words, Su Xingchuan glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. In the twinkle of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang was able to hold back her anger and completely change her expression smoothly with ease. Just with this point alone, he knew right away that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't simple. Not only that, but he also already knew that Dai Jiman provoked Bailey Hongzhuang first, but Bailey Hongzhuang still apologized. From that, he knew she was very open-minded. "Chun Wangfei's too serious. We're truly honored to have you participate in our Tianxiang auction." Bailey Hongzhuang only smiled. In that instant she knew Su Xianchun wasn't simple either. This man's cultivation was higher than every single one of the people in the lounge. That fact alone was enough to be admired. But such a powerful man like Su Xianchun was no more than staff member at Tianxiang Auction House. It seemed that she had truly underestimated Tianxiang trading commerce. Daijimon didn't have such a good attitude. Bailey Hongzhuang ruined my looks. If you think that I'll let her go, you're dreaming. Hearing her words, Su Xianchun still smiled warmly. So then does that mean you don't want to give us Tianxiang trading commerce any face? Following Su Xianchun's words, everybody could clearly sense the air tense. Everyone wiped a cold sweat for Daijimon. This little girl truly didn't know her own strength. Although Daijimon didn't understand, Lu Jingquan understood what Su Xianchun really meant. Once Su Xianchun blacklisted them, all the shops under Tianxiang Trading Commerce would close their doors to them. At that time, it'd be too terrible to be described as bad. Shopkeeper Su, we were wrong and we apologize. Lu Jingquan spoke up. Seeing Lu Jingquan act like that, Daijimon grew even angrier. After being bullied so much, how could she still hold back? The word bullied wasn't in hers, Daijimon's dictionary. She knew of Tianxiang Trading Commerce's influence, but so what? She didn't think that because of such a small matter, Tianxiang Trading Commerce would dare to blacklist her. Lu Jingquan, if you don't kill Bailey Hongzhuang right now, we'll never be together. Daijimon's voice was filled with anger. Su Xingchuan frowned. Daijimon was truly too arrogant, actually refusing to give the Tianxiang Trading Company any face. Lu Jingquan was embarrassed. He used one hand to block Daijimon as he spoke. Shopkeeper Su, please be at ease. The conflict ends here. Hearing that, Su Xingchuan glanced at them coldly before nodding. Good. After Su Xingchuan left, Lu Jingquan whispered in Daijimon's ear, Jimon, don't worry. I'll definitely help you get revenge. But first wait for the auction to end, okay? After hearing his words, the originally fighting Daijimon suddenly quietened and nodded her head. Fine. But when the moment comes, you must kill her. No problem. From Bailey Hongzhuang and Su Xingchuan's conversation, Lu Jingquan knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was married and clearly had no relation with him whatsoever. So, killing was just killing. Master, those two wanted to kill you after the auction ended. Little Black said angrily. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips twisted into a sneer. Just let them try. That pair of cheating dogs. I'm angry just thinking about them. Little White despised them, Master, you don't need to kill them. I'll do it myself. When the time comes I will send them to hell. It was their fault that they could not see clearly. Little Black and Little White's eyes twinkled with excitement. The two's actions were truly unforgivable. Until now, Master had always kept herself quiet and low profile. This time they really bullied Master, so now they would make her pay the price in blood. Jimon, don't be too angry. We're Azure Water School's students. We can sit in first class, other people can only take second class. Lu Jingquan smiled. Tianxiang auction seats were also carefully chosen and separate between first class, second class, and third class by status. First-class seats were the most comfortable, and had a better view of the auction stage. Second place was slightly worse and third was very crowded. Although anyone was allowed to participate in the competition, your seat was a symbol of your identity. True. Daijimon's face revealed a smile as she spoke. She glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. Those people who can only get second, I really wonder how they could be so arrogant. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was doubtful. She didn't know the difference between the classes. Xiao Zifen whispered into Bailey Hongzhuang's ear. We of the younger generation can only sit in second class, and the commoners sit in third. Only the rich and powerful had the right to sit in first class. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly nodded her head. She didn't really care all that much. So what if they have a first-class seat? It's nothing to be so proud of. Zhao Yunqi couldn't help but complain. Now she suddenly felt that Li Yuyue wasn't all that bad. Compared to Li Yuyue, that woman was even more arrogant. Daijimon's eyes shined as she raised her chin. You have to have skill. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't expect for Zhao Yunqi to actually suddenly help her speak. Just as she opened her mouth, a Tianxiang servant walked in front of them. Chun Wangfei, The shopkeeper would like to say that as an honored guest, a VIP viewing box has already been prepared for you and your two friends. Hearing those words, Daijimon's proud face immediately froze. What? What did he say? A VIP viewing box had already been prepared for Bailey Hongzhuang? What qualifications did Bailey Hongzhuang have? Lu Jingkuan was also stunned. Even in all of Fengbo country, hardly anyone had the qualifications to get a VIP viewing box. So how could Bailey Hongzhuang? Bailey Hongzhuang was also somewhat doubtful. From Daijimon and Lu Jingkuan's faces, she knew that this VIP viewing box was very rare. It was clearly even better than the first-class seats. Prepared for me? Why? Her monochrome eyes were filled with suspicion. She and Tianxiang Trading Commerce had no friendly relations. If it was only because of what happened earlier, it'd really be too far-fetched. The attendant's face smiled politely, softly explaining, Chen Wangye is our Tianxiang VIP. Since you are Chen Wangfei, you're naturally allowed to enter the VIP viewing box as well. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. She didn't expect that it was only because of Bei Chan. That guy. With his identity, he really did have the qualifications to become Tianxiang's VIP. After the attendant left, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly raised, forming a smile elegant like a hibiscus. I only have a VIP box and can't have a first-class seat. Yep, I truly envy you guys. Daijimon and Lu Jingkuan's faces turned somewhat ugly. Everybody was staring at them mockingly. Xin Yuanhuan stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. He really had no idea that Bei Chan, that trash, could actually be Tianxiang's VIP. Even if it was he relying on the royal family's identity to get a VIP viewing box, he still wouldn't be able to get one. So how could Bei Chan possibly have the ability to get one? The auction is about to begin. Let's go. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke, looking at Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Zhao Yunqi's eyes were filled with a pleasant surprise. Me? I can go too? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and nodded, of course. Zhao Yunqi beamed. She had always been curious about what was inside the legendary VIP viewing box. She never thought that she would get a chance to see it today. The three no longer hesitated, directly leaving to the VIP viewing box. As the three left, everyone else also slowly headed to the auction hall. Daijimon looked in the direction Bailey Hongzhuang left, angrily stomping her foot. She wanted to use today to walk all over Bailey Hongzhuang, but didn't expect to lose face herself. Oh! The attendant led Bailey Hongzhuang and her group to the viewing box. The 4x4 box was on the second floor, overlooking the entire auction hall clearly. The box was very spacious and cozy. The seats were spongy and very comfortable to sit in. There was a table in the middle of the box, the highest quality tea and exquisite pastries already prepared and laid out. 3 catalogs of the auction's item also sat there for them to flip through. Sizing up the box, Zhao Yunqi's face was filled with astonishment. A VIP's treatment truly is different, ah. Compared with the environment below, I don't know how many times better the box is. Last time she came to the auction, she could only have a second-class seat. Originally she had thought that the second-class seat already wasn't bad, but seeing inside the VIP viewing box, she could truly sense the disparity between the two. Xiao Zifan felt the same, nodding his head. The VIP viewing box is arranged beautifully, refined and elegant yet cozy and snug. Sitting below in the auction hall, it always felt a little too hot. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose into a smile. Tianxiang has very few VIPs, so this VIP box is naturally as perfect as possible. She had no choice but to concede. Tianxiang truly was worth its position on Shangxian continent. They really did have a mind for business. By distributing the classes so clearly, they could invoke the competitive spirits inside people's hearts, so that they couldn't only be satisfied with their current status. It made people want an even higher one. Otherwise, Daijimon and Lu Jingkuan wouldn't have been so satisfied with their first-class seats. Chapter 183. Daijimon took a seat. This was her first time participating in the Tianxiang auction with a first-class seat. At first she was very excited, but when she thought about Bailey Hongzhuang and her VIP box, she felt a burst of anger. How could that woman be able to get a VIP box? At that time, as one of the Imperial City's cultivators who took Azure Water School's exam and passed, her future was limitless. This was her first time coming back, so she thought that she would become the center of attention. But no, everyone was talking about Bailey Hongzhuang instead. Asking around a little, she was astonished. How could Bailey Hongzhuang get Azure Water School's invitation letter? As Azure Water School's student, she was very clear just how significant an invitation letter was. But that only made her feel even more jealous. And the thing she couldn't stand the most was that Bailey Hongzhuang was actually married to Bei-chan. How could that be? Bailey Hongzhuang picked up the auction's catalog. Earlier, she'd never even got to take a look. So now she just wanted to see if there was anything she wanted in the auction. At this moment, Zhao Yunqi inspected Bailey Hongzhuang's face and suddenly spoke. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you know why Dai Zhiman was so intent on attacking you? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrow. Because I got Azure Water School's invitation letter? Zhao Yunqi nodded but then shook her head. That's only one reason. There's another reason for her hate. A touch of confusion fell into her eyes, black like a deep pond. Other than that, she didn't know why Dai Zhiman would suddenly pick a fight with her. Xiao Zifan immediately thought about Zhao Yunqi's words, and his face immediately turned a bit helpless. What is it? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. In the past, Dai Zhiman liked Bei-chan. The words rang still. Bailey Hongzhuang widened her eyes in shock. She thought of many possibilities, but never believed that it'd be because of that. Bei-chan, Dai Zhiman actually liked Bei-chan? Even though both of Chan Wangye's legs are crippled, many women inside the Imperial City still admire Bei-chan. After all, a man with such beauty and grace is truly rare in the world. Originally, the emperor had intended to betroth Dai Zhiman to Chan Wangye, especially since everybody knew that she liked him. But in the end, Chan Wangye refused. Over the past 3 years, the emperor had been constantly finding marriage candidates for Chan Wangye, but Chan Wangye didn't agree once. Zhao Yunqi looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, her face somewhat strange. But then when Prime Minister Li proposed an idea to betroth you to Chan Wangye actually agreed. That was something almost nobody could believe. Until now, Chan Wangye always refused to get married, tactfully declining the emperor and paying no mind. But with Bailey Hongzhuang, Bei-chan not only did agree but even dared to offend the general's household and made a big display of sending the betrothal gifts just to have the perfect wedding with Bailey Hongzhuang. From this, it was obvious that Bei-chan truly loved Bailey Hongzhuang. Under such a big gap, how could Dai Zhiman accept it? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes twinkled with astonishment. Seeing Xiao Zifan nod along, she knew that everything was true. It seems that she was disdained because of Bei-chan's charm. Women in the Imperial City just loved him too much. So it's like that. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. But now at least there's proof that Chan Wangye really has great taste. Zhao Yunqi looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. At first, she couldn't understand why Bei-chan ignored the other girls and chose trash instead. Chapter 184. But now she realized, amongst all the people in the Imperial City, only Chan Wangye was able to see clearly. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and didn't speak. She hadn't known that Zhao Yunqi was always so attentive with Bei-chan. Speaking of Bei-chan, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes changed a little. She didn't know how he was doing now. Looking at the auction catalog in her hands, Bailey Hongzhuang that there were actually quite a few treasures. Weapons, medicinal ingredients, cultivation scripts, martial art skills, etc. It had everything a cultivator needed. It seemed like this Tianxiang auction house had been preparing for quite some time. This time she had come to find a weapon for herself, but even after flipping through the catalog again and again, she still couldn't find anything that really suited her. She naturally didn't want ordinary common weapons. If there wasn't anything right for her today, she'd just have to wait. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to give up, her eyes suddenly froze on the last page. It was a sword with a completely blue handle. Ice-chilling sword. The wind released from it alone was enough to make cuts. With incomparable sharpness, the blade itself was filled with a cold aura. The longer you fight, the more powerful its aura would be. It was actually a very good treasure. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile. It seems like she had finally found a decent weapon. While Bailey Hongzhuang was searching for a good weapon, Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi were also flipping through the catalogs. Since they came here, they naturally hoped that the trip hadn't been made in vain. Soon, an old man in an embroidered black robe appeared on the stage. The old man's age seemed to be around 50, his eyes bright as he looked at the crowd below him, a smile on his face. I thank everyone for making time out of their busy days to attend Tianxiang Auction House's auction. I am the auction master Su Jin. Everyone turned to face Su Jin. Now that he, the auction master, appeared, the auction was definitely going to start soon. I won't say too much. Surely nobody likes trivial words, so we'll be directly starting the auction now. A burst of applause sounded from the audience. This old man's quick and straightforward opening speech gained everybody's favor. The old man raised his left hand and a woman in a red dress slowly walked onto the auction stage, carefully setting down a tray. The woman's figure was very good, with beautiful curves in all the right places. The way she walked looked even more charming, attracting everybody's attention. Even after the woman left the stage, many men still stared in her direction. This is the first product of today's auction, embrued blood blade. The old man lifted the red silk, allowing everyone to see the embrued blood blade. Embrued blood blade, a sword dyed with blood. It's a great option for raids and assassinations, or for practical self-defense. Not only that, but it's extremely light, making it extremely convenient to carry around and hard to discover. It's a pretty good sword to choose. The old man raised the embrued blood blade, allowing the guests to see it more clearly. Only a sliver of scarlet could be seen from its silver-white surface. The name and sword truly complemented each other. Sitting inside the VIP box, Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao Zifan, and Zhao Yunqi were all able to clearly see the sword. Tianxiang's VIP box seemed to have some magical way of magnifying the object, so even though they were quite far away from the stage, they could still easily see the imbued blood blade. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the imbued blood blade. It was indeed a good weapon. It was only the first item, but the quality was already so good. That alone showed Tianxiang Auction's standard. Chapter 185, Imbued Blood Blade. Bidding starts at 4,000 gold coins, and every increase in bid must not be less than 1,000 gold coins. The auction starts now. Just as Su Jin's voice fell, shouts began to echo in the hall, raising the price higher and higher. 5,000 gold coins. 6,000 gold coins. As soon as one shouted, another person would bid even higher. The scene was very lively. 9,000 gold coins. 10,000 gold coins. In such a short time, the imbued blood blade's price was already raised to 10,000. But after every call, some of the buyers would no longer bid. For an auction, the price of an imbued blood sword already wasn't bad. 11,000 gold coins. Another one shouted. Su Jin's face revealed a smile. A guest bidded 11,000 gold coins. 11,000 gold coins. Would anyone like to bid higher? Just after Su Jin asked, another voice called out, 12,000 gold coins. 12,000 gold coins. Anyone higher? Everybody fell silent. The price of the imbued blood sword in the auction was already very high. In the audience, the owner of the imbued blood blade smiled as he saw everyone bid for the sword. Compared to just selling it at the shop, selling it here was far more profitable. 12,000 gold coins sold. Su Jin raised the small hammer and hit the gong. The loud, heavy sound of the hammer echoed clearly in everybody's ears, declaring the end of the first auction item. Congratulations to the new owner of this imbued blood sword. Tianxiang Auction's people took the lead to start clapping, followed by applause from the audience. At Su Jin's right-hand side, the bewitching figure of the woman dressed in red once again walked to the stage. She took the tray and walked in front of the guest, handing him the imbued blood sword. Under everybody's applause and the beauty's smile, the man accepted the imbued blood sword, grinning. It's no wonder Tianxiang Auction's so amazing. It's already clear from the first item. Little White sighed. Their grasp and knowledge of how humans thought were truly outstanding. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly nodded. Tianxiang trading commerce methods are truly indescribable. The imbued blood blade was no way worth 12,000 gold coins, but because it was from Tianxiang Auction, they would be happy even if they paid a little more. She was convinced that the next time the man wanted to join an auction, he would definitely choose Tianxiang's. After the first item, different products kept on getting called and brought up, but Bailey Hongzhuang's group still hadn't bid once. The next one is called Mysterious Star Sword. Su Jin teared open the red silk, a silver sword appearing in front of everybody. The sword cuts iron like clay. The wind from this alone can make cuts, truly an excellent weapon. You mustn't miss this brilliant opportunity. Xiao Zifen, who had up until now been quietly watching the auction, suddenly got up, staring intently at the mysterious star sword. Seeing Xiao Zifen change, Bailey Hongzhuang asked, "You like the mysterious star sword?" Xiao Zifen smiled and nodded. "This mysterious star sword is pretty good. I'm leaving for Azure Water School's assessment soon, so I want to at least find a nice weapon for myself." "Go for it. Get that weapon." Zhao Yunqi smiled. Mysterious Star Sword. Bidding starts at 30,000 gold coins. Each increasement mustn't be less than 1,000 gold coins. Start the auction. 31,000 gold coins. 32,000 gold coins. The second-class guests had already started making their bids, and the third-class guests could only shake their head and watch. Chapter 186. The auction's price had already gone far above their limit. Even on the journey of cultivation, it was impossible without enough money. 40,000 gold coins. The price was called very quickly. In such a short time, Mysterious Star Sword had already gone above the 50,000 mark. After 50,000 gold coins, not many cultivators would continue to bid. 51,000 gold coins. Xiao Zifen began to bid. He knew that if he quoted a price at the beginning, it'd be impossible to get the sword. It would be better to bid after there were less competitors. Daijiman was somewhat bored as she sat in the first-class seats. But when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's auction box make a bid, her eyes suddenly turned bright. A sinister smile made its way onto her face. "I'll let you pay part of the price, daring to offend me." 52,000 gold coins. Daijiman's voice echoed in the auction hall. Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Daijiman fights with a whip, not a sword. Clearly, she was doing this on purpose. 53,000 gold coins. Xiao Zifen shouted again. 54,000 gold coins. Daijiman immediately yelled afterward. No matter what price Xiao Zifen called, Daijiman would always quote the price added with another 1,000 gold coins. Even though she and Xiao Zifen never had any conflicts, since he was in Bailey Hongzhuang's group, he's also a target. Seeing Daijiman so relentless, Xiao Zifen started to get a bit angry. The other competitors had long given up. If it wasn't for Daijiman, the mysterious star sword would have long been his. 60,000 gold coins. Xiao Zifen added on 5,000 gold coins at once. His irritation was clear to see. Seeing Xiao Zifen get angry, Daijiman's smile widened. 61,000 gold coins. Everybody watched as Daijiman and Xiao Zifen competed. Daijiman was clearly raising the price on purpose. Dai Zhirong and Bailey Hongzhuang's earlier fight was so eye-catching that it was impossible for nobody there to know. But Daijiman's hateful way of raising the price like that was just truly too disgusting. The one thing everybody hated most when bidding in an auction was meeting a person like that. The money would be wasted for no good reason. And it wasn't even any of their money being extorted. It was truly too dirty. Su Jin was also paying attention to the little bidding war. As the auctioneer, it was his job to get the product's value up as high as possible. So, the scene in front of him was very much to his liking. No matter whose hand the mysterious star sword made it into, they would still make a huge profit. 70,000 gold coins. Xiao Zifen bid it again, gnashing his teeth in frustration and anger. 71,000 gold coins. Daijiman still smiled, but her heart was a little surprised. It was already amazing that the sword could go above 50,000 gold coins, but he continued to bid even as she kept raising the price. From this, it was obvious that Xiao Zifen liked the sword very much. When Xiao Zifen heard Daijiman call out 71,000 gold coins, his whole body fell soft. Today he had only come with 70,000 gold coins. He had thought that was all he needed to find a good weapon, but he hadn't expected Daijiman to wreck everything. Not bidding? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Xiao Zifen shook his head helplessly. I don't have enough. Zhao Yunqi's face was red with anger. This Daijimon is truly too much. Shameless. No gentleman would take away another's beloved. Daijimon was simply too despicable. Daijimon waited for Xiao Zifan to bid again, but she was alarmed to find that even after a long time, there was no sound. Her face couldn't help but change. Xiao Zifan didn't give up, right? She didn't need the mysterious star sword. If she bidded for the thing and then didn't want it, it'd be tantamount to breaking the auction house's rules. That wasn't what she wanted to see. 71,000 calling once. 71,000 calling twice. Everyone's face couldn't help but turn a little mocking. They all knew Xiao Zifan was the only one that really wanted the mysterious star sword. So if the sword fell into Daijimon's hands, she wouldn't even have enough tears to cry with because of her greed. 71,000 calling thrice. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly opened her mouth. 72,000 gold coins. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's shout, Daijimon felt herself relax. Fortunately, she no longer had to buy the weapon. She was still a bit scared just looking at the sword. Her face was rather unsightly. This? Xiao Zifan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang astonished. Although that was 72,000 gold coins. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled. Daijimon targeted you because of me. Since you were just dragged into it, I'll gift the mysterious star sword to you. If it wasn't for her, Xiao Zifan wouldn't have had any problems getting the sword himself. He wouldn't have had to suffer despite being completely innocent. She truly felt regretful for that. How can that do? Xiao Zifan immediately refused. This weapon is mine, so how could I let you pay? It doesn't matter. We're friends, it's normal for friends to send gifts to each other. No. Xiao Zifan firmly shook his head. First you'll lend me 2,000 gold coins, and I'll pay you back once I get home. Watching Xiao Zifan relentlessly refuse, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh a little. So be it. Since you're so determined, how about you pay the original price of the sword, 50,000 gold coins? The rest I will. Xiao Zifan was startled and opened his mouth to speak. Before he could say something, Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly spoke first. If you refuse, I will feel very regretful. Hearing her words, Xiao Zifan could only nod. Then thank you. That's what you should have said from the beginning. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, but a layer of frost tinted her eyes. Daijimon was always finding some way to attack her. Now she's even targeting her friends. As soon as the auction's finished, she must make her pay the price. The auction still continued. From beginning to end, Daijimon and Lu Jingquan hadn't tried to buy a thing. Just now they forced Xiao Zifan to pay an extra 32,000. How could Bailey Hongzhuang not be waiting for a chance to get revenge? No way will they be giving Bailey Hongzhuang a chance for revenge. The next item of the auction is actually for a woman. Soaring snakeskin, the best in its category for defense. Wearing it will definitely save your life one day. As a cultivator, we often encounter life and death situations. This premium snakeskin is the first choice. Everyone, there's no need to hesitate. The starting price is 40,000 gold coins. Bidding starts now. Zhao Yunqi froze as she stared at the red, colorful leather. She really wanted it. 50,000 gold coins. Zhao Yunqi shouted. Hearing Zhao Yunqi's bid, the audience fell quiet with astonishment. By raising the price by 10,000 gold coins, it was obvious how much she wanted it. Daijimon smiled once again. That was Zhao Yunqi's voice. 51,000 gold coins. Daijimon called. Chapter 188. When everyone heard Daijimon bid again, they all immediately gave up on the snakeskin. With that troublemaker, other than being a foolish spendthrift, there was no way they could get the snakeskin armor. The situation Zhao Yunqi feared most happened right before her eyes. Daijimon was doing it again. 65,000 gold coins. Zhao Yunqi called. 66,000 gold coins. Daijimon smiled proudly. Bullying people felt so good. Seeing Daijimon act so indifferently, Zhao Yunqian became so angry that her face flushed red. Angry, she suddenly shouted, Daijimon, you are acting overboard. Daijimon did not think Zhao Yunqian would suddenly call out her name. But she did not mind as her smile became increasingly pleased. I'm just bidding. What right do you have to stop me from bidding? You purposely causing havoc. Anyone can clearly see it. So what? What can you do about it? Daijimon continued to smile. It's just Zhao Yunqian. She can bully her as much as she likes. At this time a cold voice sounded from the box. A person without principles is invincible. You have really brought this phrase to the point of perfection. After that one line, Daijimon's expression changed as she no longer had a gleeful smile. Everyone was stunned. The phrase, a person without principles is invincible. This was the first time they had heard of such a saying, but it made a lot of sense. The previous actions of Daijimon were perfected interpreted by that single phrase. You dare call me unprincipled? Daijimon stood up and glared at the box above. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved up as she replied. Some people were born shameless, so why do I have to give them any face? Bailey Hongzhuang, you are courting death. Daijimon was furious. Every word this Bailey Hongzhuang was simply just face-smacking. Cohesiveness flashed in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Her gaze was as sharp as a knife. It seems that the punishment I gave you before was not enough. If you have the guts, say one more line. I will make you regret that you were born to this world. As the cold, chilling voice sounded, with a domineering arrogance in her tone of voice, a breathtaking aura erupted. It was no longer a threat, but a final ultimatum. Everyone's face changed. They had never seen this side of Bailey Hongzhuang. From her speech, everyone felt a powerful pressure upon them. The feeling was like a final verdict from a master. It was usual for anyone to think of this opinion to be comical, as although Bailey Hongzhuang was talented, but Daijimon had already studied at Azure Water School for a year. So in comparison, out of the two, Daijimon is stronger than Bailey Hongzhuang by a tier. So how could she take Daijimon's life? So in this situation, from Bailey Hongzhuang's cold tone, who did not think that she was being overconfident? Daijimon looked distracted in that short moment. She was overwhelmed by Bailey Hongzhuang's aura. Bailey Hongzhuang, who do you think you are? Daijimon sneered. Just because you have some talent, doesn't mean you can act lawlessly. If I wanted to take care of you, I have many methods to choose from. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she replied back. Daijimon, tomorrow at Wu time 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Life or death battle, do you dare to fight? In the continent of Shangxian, conflicts between practitioners were common. And when the conflict got too big to resolve through words, some practitioners decided to duke it out with a life or death battle. When they agreed to a life or death battle, they were fated to either win or die. No matter who died, the other party was not held responsible. Although a life or death battle was well known, but in the younger generations of the imperial city, it has never occurred. Chapter 189. After all, their family backgrounds weren't bad. Even if there were conflicts, people could use any other possible method to deal with it. Nobody would choose to pay the price with their life. When Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned a life and death battle, everyone couldn't help but gasp. Life and death battle? Bailey Hongzhuang actually wants a life and death battle? It looks like Bailey Hongzhuang isn't just arrogant. A life and death battle isn't a joke, This is Daijimon's third time provoking Bailey Hongzhuang, so it's no wonder that she'd be mad. But her challenge really was unexpected. Daijimon also didn't expect for Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly request a life and death duel, and was a bit surprised. But after, her lips curled into a small sneer. Originally she was going to kill Bailey Hongzhuang after the auction, but since Bailey Hongzhuang was courting death herself, she'll send Bailey Hongzhuang to hell. She knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was in the early stage of Mysterious Ian, but her own strength had already reached the intermediate stage. Tomorrow she would let Bailey Hongzhuang see the difference between Mysterious Ian's early stage and intermediate stage. Fine. Daijimon's voice was still proud. Bailey Hongzhuang, at that time, I'll let you beg for mercy. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled coldly. Tomorrow you will die. Humph. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang refusing to concede, Daijimon coldly snorted. Today she would let Bailey Hongzhuang be as arrogant as she wanted. Tomorrow, she would destroy Bailey Hongzhuang's face in front of everyone. Face meaning prestige, reputation, etc. Not literally her face as in looks. Xinyuan Huan watched Bailey Hongzhuang and Daijimon argue in astonishment. He never thought that after meeting each other for the first time, It had already turned into a duel between life and death. Right now, Bailey Hongzhuang was truly different from her original self. Zhao Yunqi's eyes were huge, even forgetting to close her mouth. Earlier she simply couldn't put up with Daijiman's conducts and deeds and got up to argue with Daijiman. She never thought it'd get this serious. Bailey Hongzhuang, I only spoke because I got a bit angry. How could you request for a life and death duel? If by any chance you lose, won't you? Won't, Zhao Yunqi said anxiously. Seeing Zhao Yunqi's worried face, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled a little. It was just as Xiao Zifan said. Although Zhao Yunqi's temper was a little impulsive, her intentions weren't bad at all. Before today, there had always been a small barrier between her and Zhao Yunqi. She didn't expect that because of Daijiman, the barrier would be erased in anger against a common enemy. Xiao Zifan's face was also worried. You were really too reckless. I heard Daijiman already broke through into the intermediate stage of Mysterious Ian. With that and her experience in Azure Water School, you aren't her opponent. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hands and smiled. Don't worry, I know my own strength. She already knew Daijiman's strength the moment she saw her. Even though she was only in the early stage, her true fighting strength was even stronger than the intermediate stage of Mysterious Ian. That was the source of her confidence. Daijiman only studied in Azure Water School for a year. In her previous life, she walked around all of Jianghu for many years. Jianghu is a community of martial artists in wuxia stories. Literally means rivers and lakes. No matter if it was cultivation experience or fighting experience, nobody in her generation could match her. She never even put Daijiman in her eyes. She only decided to do this because Daijiman's family was too troublesome. Otherwise, Daijiman would have already died today. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's careless appearance, Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi were flooded with regret. If they had known that it'd be like this, they never would have called Bailey Hongzhuang to take part in the auction. Chapter 190. Because of that, Zhao Yunqi no longer had any more interest in the snakeskin, and Daijiman also didn't care about the snakeskin. In the end, to everyone's surprise, Zhao Yunqi got the armor for an incredibly low price. Jiman, you have to be careful when dueling Bailey Hongzhuang tomorrow. Lu Jingquan suddenly spoke. Daijiman raised her eyebrows and didn't care. It's only Bailey Hongzhuang. After I reveal all my power, she won't be my opponent. Lu Jingjun frowned slightly. I don't think Bailey Hongzhuang's that simple. If she was truly that weak, your face wouldn't be like this right now. Hearing his words, Daijiman's face changed, immediately shouting, that was only once, how could she be my opponent? Jiman this. Lu Jingquan still thought Daijiman should be more careful. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang wanted a duel on the spot, he didn't think that Bailey Hongzhuang was an impulsive person. If she dared to propose a life and death duel, she must have had some kind of confidence in her abilities. But Daijiman was already unwilling to listen and waved her hand in disgust. Don't turn this into a big mess. Don't tell me you think I don't know my own strength? Seeing Daijiman grow angry, Lu Jingquan could only sigh and close his mouth. Maybe Daijiman already thought of a way to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang tomorrow. So now was her time to spite Bailey Hongzhuang with the ice-chilling sword. Many of the cultivators in the auction also wanted the ice-chilling sword. From the incredibly high starting price alone, the sword's value was obvious. But in the end, the ice-chilling sword still fell into Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. The auction items were presented and sold. Each item was more expensive than the last. As the auction's items got less and less, the air inside the auction grew more and more tense. The auction's finale's value needn't be said. However, almost everyone was still thinking about Bailey Hongzhuang and Daijiman's life and death duel. With their minds occupied on something else, the audience's enthusiasm was somewhat lacking. After the last item was sold, everyone started to get up and prepare to leave. In that moment, Su Jin suddenly spoke, attracting the crowd's attention. Just before the auction began, our auction house actually received a new product for our finale. We believed you all would be very interested in it. Su Jin's face had a confident smile. When he found out about the newly added auction item for the finale, he knew that this would be their biggest auction yet. Hearing Su Jin's call, everyone was startled, turning to look at the stage. The auction actually wasn't finished yet? The guests who were about to leave returned to their seats. If it was Tianxiang auction's finale, its value shouldn't be low. I wonder what sort of treasure it is, capable enough to be added to the auction last minute. Since it was able to become the auction's finale, I don't think the treasure is simple at all. This isn't the first time something like this happened, but this is the first time an item brought in just before the auction became the finale. Everyone was discussing heatedly, their faces all full of curiosity. Zhao Yunqi was also very curious. I wonder what kind of treasure can manage to become the auction's finale even though it was handed in just before it started. Soon after she said those words, Zhao Yunqi and Xiao Zifan were both startled, turning to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Although they knew Bailey Hongzhuang had brought in something to sell right before the auction started, they didn't know what. Could the treasure actually be Bailey Hongzhuang's? Chapter 191 The Auction's Final. It can't be yours, right? Zhao Yunqi asked. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled and nodded, not hiding it. Yeah, it's my item. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang confirm it, Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi were astonished. From the previous auction items, Bailey Hongzhuang's treasure must be incredibly valuable if it could become the auction's final at such short notice. Do you mind if I ask what it is? Xiao Zifan asked. A pill. On the stage, the lady in a red dress placed a silver plate on the auction block in front of Su Jin. Su Jin's smile grew wider and wider. I am sure that everybody must be very curious about the auction's final item, so I won't keep you all in suspense any longer. The final item is something all young cultivators need: bone cleansing pill. For a split second, the auction hall seemed to freeze. It was soon followed by wave after wave of surprised discussions which came like a downpour. The large hall became extraordinarily lively. Bone cleansing pill. Tianxiang's auction actually had a bone cleansing pill. I didn't expect for this auction to give us such a nice surprise. Usually, it's near impossible to buy a bone cleansing pill. If I had known about the bone cleansing pill earlier, I would have come with more money. Not good, I need to hurry and pass the news back to get more gold coins. Right, I need to as well. When Daijimon heard the words bone cleansing pill, she was stunned. She never thought Tianxiang auction would give her such a nice surprise. A bone cleansing pill was something all young cultivators yearned for even in their dreams. She was also like that. Not good, I need to get money now. Daijimon hurriedly got up. Earlier, she hadn't found anything she wanted in the auction book. Today she only came to watch the fun and didn't bring that much money. Daijimon quickly left the auction. Meanwhile, Lu Jingquan's heart was also thumping heavily. Even in Azure Water School it wasn't easy to get a bone cleansing pill. If he could get the bone cleansing pill here, it'd be perfect. Master. Daijimon left the auction. Little Black watched Daijimon run under it. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips stretched into a smile. Daijimon's only going to get some money. She'll be back soon. But the money she brings back will be useless. Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi's faces were filled with shock as they stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. They've long known that Godly Dr. Square was selling pills, but it had always only been immortality pills and detoxification pills. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would also have bone cleansing pills. Although bone cleansing pills and immortality pills were both second-grade pills, immortality pills were very common and most pill masters knew how to refine it. So although immortality pills were rare, if one really wanted to get one, it wasn't too hard. Bone cleansing pills were actually very different. Very few pill masters knew how to refine it. In the entire Imperial City, only one person was able to refine bone cleansing pills. Yet Bailey Hongzhuang, remarkably, was actually still able to bring out such a pill. Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi glanced at each other. They could never understand how Bailey Hongzhuang was so strange. In accordance to her original identity, she was only the general's household's unfavored daughter. But how could she just be so different? Bailey Hongzhuang watched as the two's faces changed over and over, a small smile still on her face. Even though what she did today really was strange, she no longer cared. Chapter 192 She wasn't Bailey Jintao's daughter, and wanted to find her own biological parents. So what if somebody doubted her identity? She hadn't been that same always bullied on Bailey Hongzhuang for a while already. Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi quickly recovered from their shock. Bailey Hongzhuang was their friend, so naturally, they were happy seeing how amazing Bailey Hongzhuang had become. In the VIP box, Xin Yuanhuan's heart was filled with astonishment. Although he already won one in the hunting competition, there were many children in the royal family. Returning home with another bone cleansing pill would be best. This time we had altogether 3 bone cleansing pills, so to make sure everyone gets a chance, we'll be dividing it into 3 individual auctions. Su Jin's voice echoed in the auction hall, making everyone even more excited about the 3 bone cleansing pills. If there was only 1 pill, it'd be very difficult for them to get it. But if there were 3, they would have a much better chance. In the first class seats, Li Changqian was also excited when he heard about the bone cleansing pills. Earlier today, he was in a bad mood, so he decided to drop by and take a look at the auction. He didn't expect for the auction to give him such a pleasant surprise. Since everyone already knew about what happened with Li Yu's face, the only thing he could do left was to improve her strength. No matter what, the bone cleansing pill must be his. We'll now start the auction for the first bone cleansing pill. Everyone knows how priceless a bone cleansing pill is in the Imperial City, and finding a bone cleansing pill is very, very difficult. So the bone cleansing pill doesn't have a starting price or a minimum increasements. Everyone may bid as they wish. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. Su Jin really was great. The starting price in the auction would usually give everyone a rough estimate of its value, so the final selling price normally would not be much higher than the starting price. By not placing a starting price and giving everyone nothing to start with, it'd surely be able to reach a high price. Master, it looks like Tianxiang Auction can sell the bone cleansing pills at a really high price today, Little Black said, laughing. Little White slowly nodded. This time wasn't chosen wrong. Everyone in the auction hall really wants the bone cleansing pills. Bailey Hongzhuang only smiled faintly and didn't speak. Tianxiang Auction House's skills were better than what she imagined. 10,000 gold coins. A man in the third-class seat suddenly made the first bid. Hearing the price, everyone felt a burst of contempt. Never mind an auction, a bone cleansing pill wouldn't even be that cheap in a store. This guy's starting price was truly shameless. Sensing everyone's disdain, the man also felt somewhat embarrassed. As an ordinary person, 10,000 gold coins was already a lot. However, he had completely forgotten about all the lofty personages in the auction. But a moment after the man bidded, a voice came from a viewing box. 100,000 gold coins. Xin Yuanhuan suddenly opened his mouth, directly raising the price to 100,000 gold coins. Everyone's faces changed. Since the auction started, the Crown Prince hadn't spoken once, so everybody had almost completely forgotten about him. How powerful was a Crown Prince's identity? Nobody dared to offend him, and so for a moment, the auction hall was completely silent. Su Jin was a bit baffled when nobody else made a bid, and could only call out, 100,000 gold coins going once, 100,000 gold coins going twice, 100,000 gold coins going thrice. Congratulations to His Highness, the Crown Prince's winning bid for the bone cleansing pill. The red dress woman walked on the stage, taking silver platter with the bone cleansing pill, and walked towards Xin Yuanhuan's viewing box. Chapter 193. Everyone secretly sighed. The first bone cleansing pill was already taken by His Highness, the Crown Prince. If it wasn't for His Highness's bid, the first bone cleansing pill definitely should have sold for more. Xiao Zifan said, sighing regretfully. This was why pill masters were all practically worshipped in Shangxian continent. Just a single pill they refined was enough to make cultivators go mad. Zhao Yunqi nodded. Once His Highness, the Crown Prince opens his mouth, who else dares to talk? Do you think that His Highness is going to bid for all 3? Xiao Zifan muttered to himself for a moment and spoke. He probably won't. Bidding for the second bone cleansing pill starts now. 100,000 gold coins. Hearing 100,000 gold coins again, everyone was momentarily startled. But this time it wasn't Xin Yuanhuan who called, but the Prime Minister Li Changqian. Seeing Li Changqian, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curved into a shallow smile. This kind of enemies on a narrow road truly was interesting. When everyone saw that His Highness, the Crown Prince, still hadn't bid, Their hearts all actually felt a bit relieved. Although the Prime Minister was also powerful, far fewer people were afraid of him. 110,000 gold coins. 120,000 gold coins. Seeing everyone fall silent before starting to call out earth-shattering prices, Li Chengqian's face couldn't help but turn a bit ugly. When Daijimon returned to the auction hall and found that it was already on the second bone-cleansing pill, she immediately joined in on the bidding. 150,000 gold coins. 160,000 gold coins. Li Chengqian bid. 170,000 gold coins. Daijimon frowned. The price was already almost twice as much as the first bone-cleansing pill. But Li Chengqian was completely determined to win the bone-cleansing pill, increasing the price once again without the slightest hesitation. He had partaken in many auctions and had a lot of experience. He knew very well that the third bone-cleansing pill would definitely be even more expensive than the second, so no matter what, he needed to get this one. 200,000 gold coins. After hearing Li Chengqian shout his bid, Daijimon also gave up. She's heard of Li Yue's current situation, and knew why Li Chengqian was so determined to get it. However, she was sure that the third pill would be hers. The second bone-cleansing pill was sold to Li Chengqian and the auction for the third one began. 150,000 gold coins. Opening her mouth, Daijimon directly raised the price to 150,000 gold coins, forcing many cultivators to give up their plans. Everybody looked at Daijimon, their hearts filled with endless regret. Cultivation pills were truly something only the wealthy could afford to bid for. As for the ordinary people only watching, just the price alone was enough for them to look up in shock. Noticing everyone's eyes of admiration, Daijimon's face was full of pride. She wants to see who dared to bid against her. But in that moment a cold voice suddenly called, making the smile on her face falter. 150,001 gold coins. Everyone was flabbergasted. At the very least they all raised the price by 1,000 gold coins, and many even raised it at least 10,000 gold coins. But, did they just hear Bailey Hongshuang increase it by only a single gold coin? This already couldn't be called bidding. It was just provoking Daijimon. Daijimon's face was ashen. That damned Bailey Hongshuang. 160,000 gold coins. 160,001 gold coins. 170,000 gold coins. 170,001 gold coins. No matter what Daijimon bid, Bailey Hongshuang would always bid 1 gold coin higher. Her joking voice clearly told Daijimon that she was only playing with her. But Daijimon couldn't do anything. Chapter 194 Bailey Hongshuang, you're going too far. Daijimon's voice was furious. This was the first time she ever hated somebody this much in her whole life. Tomorrow she must kill Bailey Hongshuang. Bailey Hongshuang raised an eyebrow and smiled enchantingly. What do you mean? I was just copying you. Weren't you completely unashamed of doing it earlier? Hearing her words, Daijimon's face turned extremely stiff. She actually couldn't answer Bailey Hongshuang's words. 200,000 gold coins. 200,001. Everyone watched surprised. Earlier they had thought that Daijimon had already gone too far, but they didn't expect for Bailey Hongshuang to actually bid even more relentlessly. That single gold coin was driving Daijimon crazy. 250,000 gold coins. 250,001. Daijimon's voice was already very hectic, but Bailey Hongshuang's voice remained calm and steady. In fact, she didn't need to worry at all. Since the bone-cleansing pill was her own item, it didn't matter what price she put, since it'd still be hers in the end. Plus, Tianxiang didn't even charge her the processing fee. She refused to sell the bone-cleansing pill to Daijimon. 300,000 gold coins. Bailey Hongshuang made Daijimon go mad. She didn't believe that Bailey Hongshuang would dare to raise the price any higher. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. The price was truly too crazy. 300,000 gold coins for a single bone-cleansing pill was the same as the 2 earlier bone-cleansing pills combined. 300,001. Seeing Bailey Hongshuang bid again, everyone was stunned. Bailey Hongshuang was truly too fierce. Hearing the price, Daijimon stared up, her whole body falling limp. Jimon, stop. Bailey Hongshuang bid it for the bone-cleansing pill. This price is already very high for her. Lu Jingkuan consoled her. Daijimon faintly nodded her head. That was her only comfort. She didn't dare to continue to bid. The price had long gone past her limit. If she bid it again and Bailey Hongzhuang chose to relinquish it, she'd be completely finished. Congratulations to Chen Wangfei for winning the third bone cleansing pill. Su Jun rapped the hammer, declaring the results of the auction. The bone cleansing pill was brought to Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi looked at the pill and couldn't help but feel a little bit envious. This was a pill that cultivators yearned for even in their dreams. They didn't bid because they were clear that they didn't have the financial ability to buy it. Seeing the two's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang took out a white porcelain bottle from the space pouch and handed it to the two. These 2 bone cleansing pills are my gift to you two. Hearing her words, Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi were both startled. Watching Bailey Hongzhuang smile, they didn't recover for a long time. A gift for us? Zhao Yunqi muttered in a daze. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Right, a gift for you too. Although she refined 5 bone cleansing pills. 2 were to be sold at the auction, 2 was for Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi, and the last one was for herself. After Xiao Zifan finally reacted, he hurriedly refused. This is too precious, I can't accept it. What a joke. A bone cleansing pill was just sold for 200,000 gold coins. Ah. Zhao Yunqi's eyes flashed with pleasant surprise, but when she saw Xiao Zifan, she also immediately refused. Zifan's right, this is too precious. We can't accept it. Bailey Hongzhuang just waved her hand. You two are my friends, so of course you don't need to worry about this. Plus, the bone cleansing pill will definitely help a lot. Especially since you, Zifan, will be taking Azure Water School's entrance test. Don't refuse. Xiao Zifan's heart shook a little. Right, he needed to pass Azure Water School's examination no matter what. In fact, he already knew that he wasn't strong enough. He didn't have very much confidence in passing the test. With this bone cleansing pill, his strength would definitely improve. Even the slightest difference could decide whether he passes or fails. For a moment he was silent. Xiao Zifan glanced deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and spoke. Thank you. If you ever need anything from me in the future, I won't refuse. From what he knew of Bailey Hongzhuang until now, she was always the one helping him. The only thing he ever did was help her when the Hell Wolves attacked. His heart knew clearly that his help had barely done anything for Bailey Hongzhuang, but because of that one night, Bailey Hongzhuang had deemed him her friend. He was ashamed to accept it. He was thankful from the bottom of his heart to be Bailey Hongzhuang's friend. Although he couldn't give Bailey Hongzhuang anything back now, he was sure that he'd be of aid in the future. Seeing Xiao Zifan's firm and determined eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile turned a bit warm. Okay. Zhao Yunqi also spoke up. You guys wait for me. Although this year I don't have a chance to join Azure Water School, next year, I'll definitely work hard and join you too. The 3 smiled at each other as they left the VIP box. Bailey Hongzhuang took the initiative to go to the treasure inspecting room. Su Hongyuan was already waiting for her. To her surprise, Su Xingchuan was also in the treasure inspecting room. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come, Su Hongyuan's face exposed a kind smile. Chen Wangfei, you came? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Old Su, shopkeeper Su. Who would have guessed that the one who auctioned the bone cleansing pill was actually Chen Wangfei? Su Xingchuan said, smiling. Originally he only admired Bailey Hongzhuang's way of life. After he found out that the bone cleansing pills were actually Bailey Hongzhuang's, he started to value her a bit. Whether it was medical expertise, strength, potential and background, nothing about Bailey Hongzhuang was simple. In the past, he didn't pay enough attention to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now it seemed that his way of thinking needed to change. The money from the auction's 3 bone cleansing pills have already been placed on your card. No need. I believe in Tianxiang Trading Commerce. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly. With Tianxiang Trading Commerce's mass financial resources, it was simply impossible for them to covet such a tiny wealth. If she actually did take a look, it'd truly be too petty. Ah. Su Hongyuan's smile deepened. Bailey Hongzhuang was only 15 years old, but her conduct and behavior simply had no flaws at all. Chen Wangfei, this is Tianxiang Trading Commerce's VIP pass. We hope you accept it. Su Xingchuan handed over the black card to Bailey Hongzhuang. The Tianxiang Trading Commerce's VIP card interlinked with the coin card. Su Xingchuan handed over the black card to Bailey Hongzhuang. The Tianxian Chamber of Commerce's VIP coin card. The black gold coin card seemed luxurious, yet subdued. If you took a quick glance at it, you would see that the card wasn't that simple. Bailey Hongzhuang's penetrating eyes were slightly astonished by the color. Even though she took out 3 bone cleansing pills to the auction, it was impossible for it to warrant a VIP card. She knew the Tianxiang auction house's VIP card was a rare item. How could Su Xingchuan give it to her so easily? But since they were giving it to her, she naturally accepted. Chapter 196. The VIP card wasn't light. If you possessed a VIP card, the processing fees and commission would be cut down a lot. Indeed a good item. Then many thanks, shopkeeper Su. After Bailey Hongzhuang left, Su Hongyuan asked, "Why did you decide to give her a VIP card?" Although they did want to form a good relationship with the pill master behind Bailey Hongzhuang, it wasn't enough to warrant a VIP card. Su Xingchuan smiled wisely. That young woman isn't ordinary. In the future, her accomplishments will definitely be shocking. Her expertise in medicine alone is enough to deserve a VIP card. Although there were only a few highly skilled pill masters in Shangxian continent, it wasn't like there was none at all. But there were very few doctors that could compare to Bailey Hongzhuang. Just by this one point, Bailey Hongzhuang already wasn't simple. Su Hongyuan slightly nodded. I also admire that girl. I really wonder how far she'll grow in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the Chan Palace. Meanwhile, news of Bailey Hongzhuang and Dai Jiman's life and death battle was spreading all over the imperial city. Chen Wangfei and Miss Dai are going to have a life and death duel? Miss Dai's already been cultivating in Azure Water School for a year. I heard that she already reached the intermediate stage of Mysterious Ian, which is one stage higher than Chen Wangfei. Chen Wangfei initiated the duel? Isn't that like courting death? I heard that Miss Dai's words were too excessive, so Chen Wangfei challenged her to a battle. So reckless. Almost nobody supported Bailey Hongzhuang's duel with Dai Jiman. The gap in strength was simply too big. As everyone knows, challenging someone who's a stage ahead of you was never a simple matter. Almost no cultivators could achieve this. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care what other people thought. Returning to her room to cultivate after eating her evening meal. Looking at the bone-cleansing pill in her hands, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't hesitate to swallow it. The earlier you consumed the pill in cultivation, the better its effects would be. The bone-cleansing pill not only raised affinity towards spirit power, but also improved cultivation speed. But when cultivators in the Hotian boundary broke through to the Xiantian boundary, they would also have to go through a soul cleansing. A soul cleansing's results were similar, but far better than a bone-cleansing pills. It would discharge all impurities in the body and the ordinary, mundane figure would be changed into an immortal's. Their cultivation speed would drastically improve. That was why the early stages of cultivation were so slow. Little Black and Little White guarded outside the door as Bailey Hongzhuang took the bone-cleansing pill. Taking the bone-cleansing pill was extremely painful. The longer you preserved, the more impurities would be discharged, the better the effect. Very quickly, Bailey Hongzhuang sensed waves of pain attacking her as if ants were gnawing on every inch of her body. Her arteries and veins stung in torturous agony. Her beautiful face quickly turned pale, her body curling into fetal position. Pea-sized beads of sweat dripped down her forehead as she bit her lips, enduring the violent pain and not releasing a sound. Time seemed to pass by very slowly. Blue veins protruded from Bailey Hongzhuang's hands as she fisted them in pain. The feeling is truly terrible. Even if I'm experiencing this again after rebirth. Bailey Hongzhuang said, speechless. She had also taken the bone-cleansing pill in her past life. Now taking it again, the sensation was truly unforgettable. Little Black and Little White stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes full of admiration. They knew how painful it was to take the bone-cleansing pill. Many cultivators were unable to endure for long, and in turn were unable to fully reap the benefits of the pill. Bailey Hongzhuang not only endured it but also didn't even make a single sound of pain. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.